We have our opening map pick here, and that is going to be a Rocky Canyon. Delhi versus Malians. We've actually seen some spectacular Delhi games today. And I think when you look at this civilization, the key move that we've seen, or the key motive that we've seen today, was the use of the Dome of Faith into the House of Learning.
Yeah, it was more, we saw Wham go with the Dome of the Faith into a ton of elephants. It didn't end up working out for him, but it seemed like he was a significant, portion ahead, the I don't know, greater part of the game, but Puppypaw was able to extend that one on out and had those Chinese hand cannoneers, Chinese bombards, but enough of that. We are going to be jumping in to the first game of the series, Puppypaw in the color red and Wham in the color yellow.
Red versus yellow over here, Malians versus the Delhi. Again, last time these two have played today, it was in 5-game series. Could easily see a 9-game series over here. I don't remember if we've seen Rocky Canyon, though, between these. So I don't think we had that match played between them in the first best of 5.
No, I don't think so either. And not only that, I want to say both of these civs, these are civs we usually will see on Rockies, not Rocky Canyon. And I think we even saw this maybe exact matchup between maybe Makomi and Felisberto on that map. But they are deciding to pull these civs out early. And you can't forget, with the best of 9, there will be a redraft. So it's not like, they're utilizing these civs once and they can only use it just for that one single pick.
And that's going to be a big factor over here, because if we go all the way to the distance, we are going to have a civilization redraft. I do believe after game number 5.
Yep.
So you're only seeing part of the equation over here with the civilization draft. In fact, that's not something that we had a lot of time to discuss. This is something that we're going to take a look at past this game. But so far, it has been a fairly standard opening. One thing I do see, however, is that Wham's base in general is extremely open. The front is open, gold mines stacked on top of each other in the middle of nowhere. You just feel like Puppypaw's base is so much more defendable.
Yeah, and it's not only that it's open. Look at the backside of Wham's base in between the wood lines. It is just fully barren. There's no back resources at all other than really, a relic in the middle of nowhere. There's some gold over the side, but still some quite far walking distances there. First pit mine, though, has been finished on up. 6 houses fully around that, and Puppypaw getting his techs in early, not like the what was the game 2 years ago where he played and forgot all those Delhi techs.
Oh, you keep bringing that up.
It's it's one of those that some of these games just stick in your memory, and these little things you got to just bring up every now and then.
Well, the first pivot point is approaching, though, because as much as we have seen the Tower of Victory being the dominant landmark for the Delhi the last couple of years, really in this tournament, we've actually seen a lot of Dome of Faith builds from both of these players, actually. So remains to be seen if Puppypaw opts to go for this landmark over here.
Yeah, time will tell in just a few seconds. But one thing about the Dome, it really surprised me once you kind of got that scholar number up, how quickly those techs actually do end up coming in. And it is going to end up being a Tower of Victory. Canceled the first spot, wanted to have enough rooms maybe for some farms in the late game around that. And over on the other side, not surprised by any means with the Mansa Quarry. No longer going to see that Saharan trade network and trade booming anymore for the Mali.
It would have been surprising, but speaking of the Malians here, this is after the most recent patch, so now your town centers cost gold instead of stone for the Malians. If you want to play 2 town centers, it might be legitimate to do so.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing there is you're giving up your cow timing, and Mali already feels like that civilization that if they get their cow timing online, then they don't lose. They win from there. They got their 20 cows. They got the Grand Fulani Corral. So, and that's one where the players are the ones who are really going to tell us in the future kind of how the meta develops from there, if it's going to be a 2TC play, or if that was just kind of a better change for later in the game. If some kind of happens, helps your macro a little bit easier on the Mali.
Well, Tower of Victory is going to be the landmark of choice over here for Puppypaw, so no surprise shenanigans in there. But one thing I like about this map for the Delhi, among the fact that, of course, you do have a lot of berries around the middle area, but you also have a sacred site that is fairly well defendable on top of that ridge. And that basically means that the Delhi player should always be guaranteed at least one sacred site.
Yeah, and when you're the Delhi, 1 always feels good. 2 is really when you feel like you're coming more online. And 3 is when, you have that game-ending decision. You put your timer on your opponent. But 1 guaranteed starts that trickle, starts that kind of flow coming in, and then from there you can play it heavier into feudal or just tick up with that gold into castle.
Well, It looks like 1puppypaw is going to go all the way up to 2 Scholars. But again, no surprise in that front. He hasn't decided on any production building just yet, however. So remains to be seen if he opens Ghazi Raiders. For a moment, he actually queued up another mill right next to those berries, but that must have been a misclick.
I mean, we did see a little bit of pro scout play earlier from Wham. Did he maybe want to drop a second mill and go with some professional scouts being upgraded out of there?
We've seen professional scouts, especially with the Delhi recently, but usually when you do that, you have the Dome of Faith out there, so you can get that upgrading quickly. If you only have 2 Scholars to work with, and you also have to worry about, you know, moving out for sacred sites, it's a very different story.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And not only that, is stealing the deer away from a civ such as the Mali doesn't really have the same attraction as it does stealing away the deer from a civ like the French or JD or anyone who loves to move out onto that deer early, but it is going to be a second mill.
What is that?
Oh, come on, pro scouts.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
into exist. I mean, at this point, it's a free tech. You might as well click on it.
I don't know what to think about that mill, though. That just feels so awkward there. Like, sure enough, you can queue up pro scouts, but was it worth building a mill for that? I don't know for sure.
I'm not really for sure. I do know in the old days of Delhi, I remember Grubby back when he used to play had a build where he dropped double mill to be able to get the techs in early. So, you know, maybe it's just one of those that you don't have the extra scholars to quicken it up, but you're able to queue up and you're not having to sacrifice your fertilization, your wheelbarrow, some of those other timings that also are upgraded out of the mill.
Well, what this means, though, is that he's going to be reasonably quick with those eco upgrades, professional scouts as well, and this is going to give you that little food buffer to work with as well. Combine that with the fact that 1puppypaw has a very well defendable base, and it means that he might not really need to move out in the early stages of the game.
Yeah, and you can see he already has chosen that mobile unit. He has Ghazi Raiders. They were nerfed just a little bit, not enough to prove to be effective to deter people away from choosing those as the first Delhi unit. And mobility always proves to be king. Take the map control. Don't allow your Mali opponent to move out. But we've already seen the second pit mine get fully developed there on that bottom mine.
And it looks like this is going to be a double stable sofa opening here. Now, this is not something that you see every day from the Malians. In fact, most of the time you see that sofa pivot once you get to Castle Age, because that is where you really unlock the power of the sofas with the imported armor tech.
Yeah, it's just a very, very heavy food cost, and that's one where usually in the early game you're trying to play it a little bit safer. You're going on more of the defending units as Donzo, as those jab throwers, but that is not what Wham is opting for. It is sofa, and more sofa, but
looks like an IKEA.
As well. Oh, it does kind of look like an IKEA over there. Cow numbers starting to build up, though, and in it, I feel like he kind of just started to build that out of nowhere. He was at 0, and then we blink, he's up at 6.
Now, the concern I have with the sofa play here is that they are heavy cavalry, which means that Ghazi Raiders do get bonus damage against them. Against Horsemen, they might be fine, but against Ghazi Raiders, it's a very different story.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're starting to see some of those earlier techs finish up from Puppy. Not yet that Pro Scouts play, but the sofa are moving across. I don't know if 1puppypaw yet has vision, yet has the information of where these sofa are tracking.
Yeah, I don't think he needs that info, unironically. I love how he's walling in the sacred site, however. Sofa's now moving in, though.
And this is what I was afraid of, a great little spot out onto the berries, gets around the backside, so should have a guaranteed 1 villager kill, and just does the hit and run, doesn't want to overstay, and actually can pick up an archer and maybe all 3 of these archers before rolling out of here.
You could tell that Puppy was surprised about this. He wasn't expecting units to close in so quick, and just grab a villager, surround it, and pick it off immediately. Now he knows about the sofa as though he's going to push them away. And while all of this was happening, he walled in the sacred side to the left, and now he's pushing into the enemy base as well.
Sofa on the backside, when they are diving on out, we're able to pick up the Scholar on the middle sacred site as well. So that is a huge pickup for Wham. Puppy looks like he was able to secure a villager kill in the base of Wham during that time with his initial Ghazis, though.
Army count isn't looking very sharp right now for Wham, but he's slowly making a pivot into javelin throwers and archers. So, suddenly these archers from 1puppypaw will be contested by the javelins. I'm still not fully sold on the sofa play, though. I think eventually you have that power where you could start detaching and start getting raids going in smaller groups. But I feel like in a frontline engagement, as long as you have even amounts of Ghazi Raiders with sofas, I actually like the Ghazi Raiders a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of turns it on its head once we hit to Castle Age, but we are far ways away from that. Puppypaw has fully walled in his own sacred site, so the safe side, he's going to have that gold income nonstop flowing for, you know, the foreseeable future. Don't think Wam's going to be able to deny that at any point in time here now.
And he is going to start ferrying in deer here because he has gotten a second scout. Pro Scouts is about to finish, and this could easily skyrocket his food eco and just allow him to double down on the Ghazi Raiders.
Yeah, it allows him to be very, very safe. Delhi is known for taking the pocket ecos, going out on the berries, going out on these other locations. Well, if he brings the deer under the town center, well, where's the Sofa going to raid? They got nowhere to go.
Army count is still looking so much better here for Puppypaw. And remember, these are buffed archers. They do have the bonus from the Tower of Victory. Blacksmith upgrades are coming in as well. Ranged attack only, though, for Puppypaw. It's going to be there as well for Wam. But again, my concern is that these sofas, they're just not there yet. Once we get to Castle Age, this army becomes so much more valuable.
Yeah, and this is, I feel like this is one of those things where we'll see with like French Knights a lot of time, where you want to keep the French Knights alive, so then you end up sacrificing your ranged mass. But Javelin Throwers, very expensive unit. Those are ranged units that you don't want to end up sacrificing, and Wam doesn't actually have any Donzo to protect them from the Ghazi dive.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was going to say. And with range defense coming in as well for Puppypaw, he's got better decks over here. And it's just so alarming that Wam doesn't have a single Donzo. He doesn't have anything that directly counters the Ghazi Raiders.
Speaking of, Ghazi Raiders starting to dive those frontside berries. Sofa have to step up, and that's exactly what they do. Backsides firing the best they can. Villagers go back onto the berries, and it looks like Wam was able to deter the push, at least for the time being. Trades on either side, but Puppypaw is doubling down on it, keep producing, and he is going to stay at this location. And the villager gets picked on the way out, I think.
One thing that Wam did so well in this fight is focus down these Ghazi Raiders with the Javelin Throwers. And because the Sofas tank the damage from the Ghazi Raiders, the Javelins can just focus them down. And now you see, Puppy's got basically no Ghazi Raiders here. These Sofas, I think now they can jump this army of archers.
Yeah, it is kind of that positioning point. There is no frontline mass, so when we thought it was about to be Wam that was going to be able to get and taken advantage of, actually should be able to close and take down some of those archers or just circle around and do some raids. I think with 37 archers with Tower of Victory, he's even scared to take that with the mass he has.
Yeah, he does have 2 sacred sites though, so he doesn't need to rush this by any means. And 40 archers with the Tower of Victory buff are no joke. Sure enough, they don't do a lot of damage to Sofas individually, but if you can one-shot a Sofa with that first volley, that is still problematic for Wam, especially because a lot of the Sofas are heavily damaged.
Yeah, you said he doesn't need to rush this, but as you said, that siege engineering starting to be upgraded, although it takes a little bit of time, but it is a proving point that he chose that over the other couple blacksmith upgrades that he could have had, being the Delhi.
Fair point. And melee defense would have been interesting against that many Sofas. But, oh, a little pocket eco out here for Wam. You see, he has to move out for food, and this is a big difference between the two. Puppypaw, with the 2 scouts he has, he can ferry in deer carcasses, and that is not the case for Wam. The moment this little pocket gets scouted, Puppypaw is shifting in there, but in the meantime, Wam is diving deep into the enemy base.
Looks like he was deterred on a way, but has to worry about those villagers out on those deer, out on the outpost, as Puppy is V-lining directly that way, like you mentioned, fully idled for the time being. I'm not sure how much of a melee mass Puppy has here to actually burn the outpost.
Oh, this is such a good detail that the production is showing us. The Mansa Quarry is on stone, which means that Wam is able to get these fortification arrows that upgrades for the towers. This tower does have arrow slits and it's fortified. This is why it takes so much time and effort for Puppypaw to take it out.
And I mean, just as we said, there's only 2 melee units, so there's only really 2 units that are doing any solid damage to that tower, and it's still not much at all. Sofa have circled around. There are no spears here at all. Javelin's closing the gap as well. As Puppy kites away, he will continue to take damage, and Sofa just need to climb through the ranks, dive, and not allow an easy escape from this archer mass.
It's tricky though, because many of these Sofas are very heavily beaten up, and at the end of the day, these are expensive units. A new wave of troops now arrives for Puppypaw. I think Puppy is fine.
Yeah, has been able to clear up that little front line of a Sofa mass, has a few extra Ghazis headed that way as well. And Wam circles right back. I'm not sure if the villagers have been, yep, they were able to jump back onto the deer for the time being. And he's trying to also micro at the same time, go over to that sacred site and APM cap Puppy a little bit and make him focus on a few different locations.
Puppy is not researching new blacksmith upgrades.
I mean, a little bit of oversight. He knows Siege Engineering's finished. Right when it finished, he's starting to drop this ram. Wants to go ahead and ram down the outpost that was on the deer, and I'm sure will want to try to ram down some of those pit mines as well.
Ooh, he holds onto the sacred site, though, and this is big. One concern for him, though, is that he is now very heavily leaning towards archers, and Wam is up to 22 javelin throwers.
Yeah, and that's a unit that I feel like scales very, very well for Mali, even though they sometimes have a problem of heavily overkilling units. If it's only archers on the other side, split them into a few different groupings, and it somewhat solves that problem. And with these high elo players, not too hard to utilize that micro effectively.
Nice little snipe on a monk over here as Puppy was trying to capture this sacred site, but this is the name of the game here for puppypaw. It's starving his opponent out of food. He saw that Wam is on the hunt. He's going to try and take out this tower and just deny these carcasses. Carcasses that he can then ferry back home with his own scouts.
Yeah, the big problem though that I'm seeing about trying to deny food is we're at a point where Wam is actually getting that cow boom almost fully online. He's at 15 to 20, so you can see the income per minute as far as the food goes is actually favoring Wam. Another fight going on. There's more Sofa here than the Ghazis, and as you mentioned earlier, that javelin number is getting very, very scary.
Puppypaw doesn't have all his archers back at home here. If he has all the 50 archers, I think he can take this fight. But indeed, as you kind of highlighted, long feudal age over here, and now you have a near-complete cow boom from Wam. But this is a beautiful surround, and Wam is going to have to flee. He's outnumbered 2-1.
Yeah, and this is one of those, anytime he turns to kite, especially with the really slow windup, the archers get another volley, and slowly thinning out the lines of Wam. Another outpost upgrade for Wam, but is finding a little bit of idle time on the backside on the berries.
It's 1,000 food per minute, 1,000 wood per minute over here for Puppypaw. And also a monstrous economy for Wam as well. 1,000, 1,000 when it comes to food and gold. Both players with some impressive economies, and that means that they can build up armies super quickly, as we are seeing Puppypaw do. And now it's Wam's turn. He is actually remassing the sofas.
Yeah, and yet again, those rams are circling around for that outpost, for that little bit of extra food that Wam was on top of. Archers diving into the base, but they're taking damage from the town center, and they're on top of the production from Wam. This might have been a little bit of an overstep from Puppypaw.
Yeah, he needs to be careful because those are still units that counter his. And the Sofas did a really good job intercepting reinforcements over here. He actually has to bail on this aggression, and he might lose the rams in exchange.
Yeah, really, really good job by Wam. Always is focusing on cutting off those reinforcing mass. If the mass is too big to deal with, we'll make it fall back and go on away, but fight's still going on. Puppypaw stepping forward, has a few more reinforcements coming, and it just feels like it has just been this constant battle this whole game.
Yeah, concern here for Puppypaw is, again, he's being directly countered by those javelin throwers. As long as he had overwhelming numbers, he was able to take those fights, but that is no longer the case. He only has 2 Ghazi Raiders, though. He's just so locked in on these archers. And now it's getting concerning because Wam's got Sofas coming, Wam's got javelin throwers coming as well, and Wam has all the blacksmith upgrades that Puppypaw has.
Yeah, and my big question is how many more deer carcasses are left from Puppypaw and those professional scouts, as we know Wam's going to have this long-term cow boom eco, but Puppy has been on the berries, has been on some of these other locations, and will start getting more and more vulnerable.
Another ram coming in here, but I feel like we're doing the same thing again here for Puppypaw. He's going to try to ram push this, but he no longer has the army to protect that ram. And now, with all these javelin throwers being back at home to defend and really nothing threatening them, Wam can actually afford to detach the cavalry here, and I guess he's going to try to harass those berries to the north.
Yeah, even if it's not the berries to the north, it's cut off the reinforcement units, pick an archer here or there, pick a reinforcing Ghazi, and just make Puppypaw's life very, very difficult, and that's exactly what he's continued to do this whole entire game.
And the thing is that Wam has already finished up his cow boom or his cow transition, whereas Puppypaw is reliant on berries. He's reliant on deer. At some point, he's going to have to make a farm transition, and that's going to be very uncomfortable, especially when Wam is aging up to castle age.
Yeah, and right when he hears that castle, he's going to know that he needs to dive the base. He needs to do something to, pay for the opportunity cost that Wam had, which was the Grand Fulani Corral. but there's not a lot of time that he's going to be able to do that, especially with how quick Mali upgrades can come through.
Timing could be nasty over here, though, because if Wam is aging, puppypaw could just double down on Feudal and overwhelm him. The name of the game will be the Ghazi Raiders. Ghazi Raiders destroy everything that Wam has as long as you have sufficient numbers. And I think for puppypaw, he just needs to wait until his opponent reaches Castle Edge and then just pull the trigger on this. He's got 17 Ghazi Raiders, 58 archers behind this as well. It's almost now or never.
Yep, all 3 upgrades queued up immediately when Castle Edge hits. Imported armor in both veteran units. More units being queued on up, and Puppy is getting ready to dive that base. Wants to get right on top of those cows, right on top of those units before upgrades come through.
It's going to be a difficult dive here for puppypaw. Name of the game is focusing down those Ghazi Raiders if you're Wam. Once they are gone, it's going to be difficult for Puppy to stand and fight.
First veteran upgrades have come through, still don't have the imported armor yet, but now those javelins make mincemeat of those Ghazis with the veteran upgrade sofa as well, much tankier on the backside. It's just archers here for puppypaw. Are the numbers going to be enough? Next couple Ghazis come through, but these are on top of all the production buildings from Wam, on top of a TC with 14 villagers inside, and it looks like puppypaw just has archers left and will have to turn and run.
Wam did the very thing he needed. He focused down the Ghazi Raiders because he knew exactly that Puppy cannot sit under a town center with all these archers. Not when he's also facing veteran javelin throwers. Range defense now coming in for Wam as well. The deck advantage is now so visible.
I mean, look at right when imported armor comes through on the sofa, you can just tell how different it is now. They're taking 4, 5, 6 volleys when before it was 1 or 2. And Wam is making much more efficient trades, has the cow boom behind, and it just feels like puppypaw has nothing left. And indeed, Wam takes game number 1.
What an opener. Really very back and forth. I absolutely love the dynamics of the dally over here. And there were times where things got very dicey for Wam. I also doubted the opening with the sofas. And I don't think it worked as good as he wanted to. But at the end of the day, I think what it came down to is that having a large group of javelin throwers is just such a good and versatile army. And even against the Ghazi Raiders, they were able to stand and fight on occasions.
Yeah, it was just it was so funny watching this game because I feel like there's so many games where players will mass army, and then never take fights, and they'll kind of be at this like standoffish point. Whereas this time, it was not that. It was, hey, we're going to have these small clash, and who's eventually going to have the better eco, the better kind of come through behind it, and we all know how Mali does with their cows.
One thing that's interesting here, I feel, is that when you look at these two civilizations, Ayyubids have a lot more early momentum on water maps, even hybrid maps as well. Jushi is going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with once you get to late game, especially on a map like this where you can wall off the flanks and just turtle behind it. If this game goes long, it's going to be Jushi all over.
It's going to be Jushi all over. And right, it's like we know Ayyubids is a timing civ, right? They already do that on land, and we see that now going into Baltic as well. Maybe we see a little bit of a different one. And one thing to note about, if you watch closely, by the way, at puppypaw, is that I'm expecting him to go for a really tight Sushi water build order. Like, we know that China and Sushi, like, they have these, like, super tight water build orders. That's like, Valdemar has one that I'm not going to leak, but it's like, it's incredibly tight, where it's like, you got to force drop off with a little bit of vills just so you get, like, that one villager in production and all that kind of stuff. And it's pretty crazy. And I think actually, yeah, it's actually a little bit of a similar build to actually what Valdemar has, but I do like it a lot. And again, like Ayyubid and Abbasid in general, they kind of, for water, the only thing they really got going for them is cheaper docks.
Well, it's going to be a dock opening here from both. And one thing I'm looking at here is that this is not necessarily your most classic Baltic map generation. The landmass is pretty substantial.
Yeah.
It's pretty wide. And it's also kind of, the pond itself is kind of offset to the north. And both players kind of spawned southwards. So one thing that's interesting here is that the distance to cover between the docks and even the players on land is not as big as it usually is.
Yeah, so like having a shorter distance, like, and this is, I always like make like the biggest example of Archipelago and Master of Realms, which is like Sushi, how they played. It was either full aggression with your first boat and then like your second boat comes a little bit after because you've had a fast age up. Or you just sit back at home and get an archer ship, get 2 springle ships, maybe even a demo, and then you start moving out, which, I don't know, it's kind of difficult to know which one you go for. We do have a couple of drop-offs. Now, let's talk a little bit about sushi meditation garden spots, because I actually don't see any good ones.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? It feels like if you want to find a good spot, there are options. There is one to the north with gold mines, stone, and berries, but it's one thing to consider here is that you have to walk out, you have to build that landmark, and every second you walk, you delay your landmark, which could be catastrophic when you could get aggressed on water.
Yeah, I mean, the closest and probably the best one, which is like why sushi was so good on Holy Island as well, right, is like you get woodline and you get a bunch of stone, and then you get hour sits emplacements, and you never actually have to worry about water. So that's probably what we can see. There's 2 spots that you can go for, one in forward and one in back, that is very close to the woodline and also grabs the stone vein.
Well, remains to be seen if he is actually going to go there. As our observers are highlighting to us, there is actually a very nice and comfy spot for wood and stone at the very back, and I guess one of the advantages of that spot is that you really don't have to walk a lot. In the meantime, we do have an age up over here, and I want to hear your thoughts about this specific age up here. I think, are we rushing feudal? Yeah, we're rushing feudal.
We're rushing feudal, right?
As you would expect, right?
It's cheap, and so I'm guessing, like, this is really interesting as well, right? Because 1puppypaw is not even remote. Like, he's going to wait a couple more drop-offs, maybe even force drop-off his fish just to get the actual age up. And he's moved actually quite far away with his villagers to build a village. But it's next to the gold vein, so it's like, he's already like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm just setting it up right. Here's where my base is. That's my base layout. This is next to it. But we're actually going to
go for the scout coming into body block. It's only a couple of seconds delay, but on a map like this, seconds can matter because Wam is up the feudal age. His first galley is already on the way. And he knows fully well how delayed 1puppypaw is.
Yeah, he knows full and well, right, that this is what's happening. And just that little bit of extra is like super tight as well. It's worth noting he actually pulled the shoreline fishermen to actually build the landmark, which, you know, it's you don't need food that much when at the start of feudal. When it comes to water, you need that wood, and that's what we see, right? It's the best option he has that close. He gets a lot of wood, but he doesn't get pretty much anything else, which is going to be a little bit problematic. But now when Wam is coming through here, he's going to idle out a lot of this fishing ego.
It's going to be a lot of idle time. Feudal Age just now kicks in for 1puppypaw. He is going to open with a galley, but on the other side, Wam already has that bug lock queued up, so he seems to be just one step ahead when it comes to the production of these combat ships.
Yeah, I mean, he is, right? He got a faster age up, a cheaper age up, nonetheless as well, right? So he's just able to get that, and now we're already seeing, right, Wam has everything in queue. He's got a springle ship out, a demo ship on the way as well, and that's just going to be putting a lot of pressure here. And 1puppypaw, despite having the faster fishing ship production, because he's that China variant, is actually going to be behind for quite a bit now on water.
Yeah, first Buglaw is now on the way, and a demo is out already for Wam, so he's got 1-1-1. And this is concerning for 1puppypaw here. If he loses the galley, the demo is going to basically insta-kill that war junk that's about to spawn.
Yeah. And, well, we got to be very careful here. And 1puppypaw knows the importance of that ship, right? He's using all of his fishing ship, even losing some, just to keep that one alive. And you just got to make sure, right? And 1puppypaw is now super far behind, at least.
Oh, the war junk! It's exposed!
It's completely out of position.
Galley trying to snipe out the demo over here. Demo looking to connect. Beautiful connection! Almost all the HP gone here. Fishing boats looking to repair, but all the fishing boats had to be sacrificed to save this one war junk.
But it's still, like, even though it didn't get the springle ship, it's so important for him. He's taken out everything except one ship. 1puppypaw has one fishing ship left, and that is so much investment that has gone to effectively waste at this point, right? Wam hasn't invested that much into his fishing just yet, but he's still very ahead. But this could be...
Oh, Demo is coming in, and there is no galley out here for Wam. His galley is lagging behind. One of those Buglaws heavily damaged. Closing distance. Galley comes in to help out. Nice volley. A second one is not going to connect, but the Demo is so low. and it looks like Wam gets to keep both of his Buglaws alive.
I was for sure one of those was going to go down. That was something. But yeah, PuppyPaw is still in a very tough spot, right? He's gonna have to wait to actually like get that demo healed up again, because just the archership from Wam now is like, I mean, he's looking for it. He knows.
Oh, he's looking for it. He's hunting for it, and at the same time, fishing boats once again have to be pulled. Demo flanking the galley over here. Now he's looking to jump the Buglaws, but gets sniped instantly. Demo, on the other hand, coming out. And the galley is nowhere to be found for PuppyPaw. It's all the way up north, and the Demo is going to connect once again here for Wam.
Yeah, and honestly, at this pace, it looks like it's going to be not a 50-minute Baltic game. But look at this, right? Puppy is microing his fishing ship onto the healing. And it's a very important thing, right? We talk about defender's advantage on land, but on water it's even worse because you have that passive healing and the active healing going on at the same time.
Yeah, one thing that Wam wasn't able to do is actually sink these war junks. He was able to land beautiful hits, but he didn't sink them. So PuppyPaw gets to keep war junks out there, but at the same time, Wam is also queuing up Desert Raiders. It's been a bit of a status quo on water recently, but once those Desert Raiders arrive to harass, things could get changed very quickly.
Yeah, and it's worth noting as well, right? Land units, Camel Rider or Desert Raider, sorry, I always mess those up. It's the only thing right now. The big thing that people like about Sushi, at least from just talking with a couple of people, it's like Sushi don't have to go Song Dynasty to go Shuganu, and Shuganu, when you are able to build up a little bit of a mass without your opponent scouting it, it's such a big thing that actually manages to just like snowball into just like a complete rollover. But we don't see that quite just yet. I'm actually a little bit interested in knowing why he went with a Desert Raider, considering the Shuganus, and not just like a Horseman, which is just faster, does more damage, and is not countered by a super good unit. But he's still going to be able to get some idle time here, right? He's going to be sending it right to gold, and while that is happening, we're going to be having a land water fight.
Indeed. Desert Raider moving in for a distraction over here. Demo is looking to flank from both sides over here. Demo now moving in here for PuppyPaw. Demo will not get a trade. Instead, it is Wam pushing up his own. Demo is forcing PuppyPaw away. In the meantime, harassment on the gold mine continues as well. 4 Buglaws against 5 War Chunks, but PuppyPaw does not have a single galley right now.
Yeah, and that is a crucial detail in that fight. Like, PuppyPaw was on the aggressive, was ready to go. Lost his galley ship, instantly back. He has nothing to defend, and he needs to use all of the sprinkle ships to actually be sniping out demos, and that is not something I want to do because that's a lot of DPS.
Demo once again coming in. Wam looking to flank over here. Galley is out now for PuppyPaw, but it's to the south. Gets sunk instantly. Demo looking to converge upon these War Junks, but it does get sniped out. And it means that PuppyPaw once again gets to keep his War Junks alive.
Yeah, and you can see, right, Wam was like, he realized instantly, I'm not close enough to actually get the connection on the sprinkle ships. So what is happening, he's going over to the fishing ship, try to do some damage. Can't get that connection either, but it's at least better to try that attempt. And you can see the awareness that these players has. They know instantly, like, okay, I'm gonna get the most value, and there's a tower rush.
Ooh, it feels like it. I think the gold mine has been abandoned by PuppyPaw, and maybe Wam is looking for an opportunity to just secure that position even more. But that villager does get picked instantly.
I mean, he was walking along the shoreline. Yeah. Like yes, they reduced the vision range of fishing ships just a little bit, but I think that was a little bit too much. I do wonder if there was probably a hotkey that was mixed up somewhere.
Scout goes down over here for Wam to the tower, and this defensive tower makes life a little bit more difficult for this one Desert Raider. Scout does get traded on both sides, so now both of these players will be lacking land-based vision.
Yeah, but I mean, assuming that Wam actually went for a stable to make the Desert Raiders and not an Archer Reg, he can invest into a new Scout. Puppy can't. Like, Puppy needs to be using his TC for so much more, and it's worth noting, right, we don't have an Imperial Academy, so making these Imperial officials is even worse for Sushi. And having to make another Scout, that's terrible.
Water fight once again commencing. Not a lot of demos in here for either party. In fact, Puppy just has one demo overall. At the same time, 2 demos for Wam. Demos now making their way to this middle area here. Buglass did close the distance here to try and just finish off some of these war chunks that they failed to do so far. But the demos, they will be short-lived in this engagement. And once again, you get the feel that puppypaw is able to focus down these injured ships, whereas his own injured ships can get back home. Demo once again looking to get the connection going, but they will be sniped out instantly. Wam once again unable to finish off so many of these heavily damaged ships.
I feel like he just has... It's really rough, right? Because you want to get more demos going in at the same time, but he can't make more demos because he needs to keep up the swingle ship numbers. So when you have these small fights and just 1 and 2 demo ships going in at the same time, it's super easy for puppypaw to actually be microing these. And we know their micro is amazing just by looking at how...
Oh, double demos. Two demos moving in. There are 3 galleys here for puppypaw, but they have not sniped many of these out. Puppypaw gets pushed all the way back to his docks.
I mean, again, right, defender's advantage going back, getting healing, has the fishing ship. At least has gotten some more villager kills on land, as we saw in picture-in-picture, right? Puppypaw he's trying to go into horsemen, but I don't see that working when Wam is already, like, he's already revealed, I'm going desperate.
Wam was diving deep, looking for the galleys so he can keep his demos alive, but the galleys went all the way back here. And what ended up happening was his fleet being just absolutely annihilated here. 1 demo looking to connect, but it's not going to happen. And you feel like now puppypaw is picking up some water momentum because basically all the buglaws are gone.
All the buglaws are gone, but more are coming in at the same time. So it's kind of rough to see. I mean, demos, they're trying to see if they can get some sort of connection, but it's super, super hard, right? You need 3 galleys to, like, basically guarantee a 1-shot on an incoming demo. Of course, you can still micro it, but it's so much harder. But you can kind of see, like, look at the destroyed value. It's so similar. It's just been trading non-stop here.
Trades back and forth indeed. Demos now once again closing distance. Beautiful demo connection here for Wam. He's down to 4 buglaws, 3 galleys. On the other side, though, puppypaw does have only 1 galley to work with. A lot of his ships are also heavily damaged. He had to sacrifice a bunch of fishing boats as well to keep his fleet alive. Now it's Wam who's looking more and more alive on water.
Yeah, for sure. And like that demo hit was also onto 2 of the galleys. Having 2 of those galleys is basically everything that was keeping puppypaw alive. So he needs to reinvest into those, but he needs to be playing defensive, and defensive archer ships is not something you like to see. And Wam now, like both of these players, like floating so low on resources, but puppypaw, he is floating so much wood. Like that's the only thing like that's sticking out. And I want to check if we can check on the meditation guard, and I'm guessing it's somewhere in like the 30-40 of wood per minute.
Once again, big naval fight breaking out here. Demo ships looking pretty decent, but observers don't really care about that.
Yeah, 25 a minute. That's
dive going deeper and deeper. Demo could get a beautiful connection over here. No archer ships for puppypaw, and this is exactly what Wam was waiting for. Demo chasing down the galleys, or war galleys to the north. Those 2 go down. Fishing boats get caught in the crossfire as well. At the same time, though, puppypaw is starting to get some horsemen going on the land. He's looking to turn things around by just distracting Wam on land a little, because water seems to be falling more and more into the hands of Wam.
More and more, and I'm just surprised there's no more docks. There's not anything that puppypaw is really doing with this wood. He's kind of just floating it. There's no towers. There's nothing. There is just a constant pressure, and those demos again on the fishing ships. It's the crucial thing. It's a lot of investment from puppypaw. He is China. He has the bonus build speed on water, but he's still losing eco.
Now double demos coming in, however, for puppypaw. Misses the first one. Second one, it's so far from connecting. It does get picked off before a connection is made. And once again, puppypaw is without galleys himself. It's 10 buglaws versus 5 war junks. Demos moving in for Wam as well. This is looking so grim for puppypaw. He's now outnumbered 2-1.
Yeah, and that's not the ratio you want. But you can see, right, Wam, like, he knows he has the advantage. Like, he has vision of this, don't get me wrong. But the problem is, he has vision of it, which means that he doesn't want to move out because he doesn't have archer ships.
Demo's now flanking around from the north, however. Just one galley here for Wam, but he's got so much more firepower from all these Buglas. Buglas trading against the War Junks over here. Numbers looking much better for Wam. Demo looking to make a connection. Does get snipe, or is it?
Oh, it's still on 2 connect, 2 on 2 though. Wam trying to see if he can go in here. There's a couple of demo ships idle, not going for that, but no connection either from either side. And it's just, I don't know.
Them Baglas versus 6 War Junks here. Demo's getting picked off instantly once again. Eco, though, pulling ahead for Wam with all these fishing boats constantly getting caught in the crossfire.
Wam's going castle. Like, he has to be floating up to castle at this point.
Oh my, you're right. He's up by 10 Eco, he's looking for castle, and he's got that momentum on the water as well.
There's no demo ships. Like, Wam can go 100% on this right now. He doesn't know about that, because the worst thing you can do is try to go ham, and there's 10 demos coming at you. Of course, that's not really realistic at this point, but he's still aging up right now. He's trying to see if he can go up. I'm pretty sure it would be the military wing or something similar, but demos going in, not finding the connections.
No more galleys left for puppypaw. No more demos, however, for Wam. Castle Age is on the way, however. And there's just nothing left on the water here for puppypaw. He's looking for new demos, but he's facing so many galleys over here. Demos coming in as well for Wam. First couple of demos looking for the flank, though. They're not being focused down. They do get picked off in the very last second, still sinking a couple of the Baglas.
Yeah, I mean, attempt at a nice connection, but it's just too little too late. And honestly, like, Wam feels like he barely needs Castle Age at this point, right? He's just going so ham. Some raids, some desperation raids from Puppy is what's going to be happening in the picture-in-picture. But water is what ultimately matters on this map. We've seen Soldier trying his best, or doing a fantastic job earlier in the tournament, but I don't think that's a possibility right here.
Water is just slipping out of the hands of puppypaw here. Another demo flank, beautifully body blocked, but no things free of the Buglas, and that could be the lifeline that puppypaw needed.
Still, though, villagers going down for Wam, right? The raids here, I mean, more coming in, and yeah, Desert Raiders just going to be cleaning that one up. But now we're at the point where this is where, like, Sushi is supposed to shine. You're supposed to have passive zone income. This is not a position you should end up as Sushi.
He's moving out for a boar as well, but Desert Raiders are on the way from Wam. Ship numbers down to just a handful for both of these players. And look at this. He depleted his entire wood line over here. Now he's forced to go forward, the very place where those Desert Raiders are going.
Yeah, and now it's just, I mean, yeah, look at Puppy.
And there it is. There it is. Wam, 2 in a row here to make it 2-0 in the grand finals.
Yeah, and that's just going up to Castle, knowing you lost. Like, losing water, going up to Castle at the same time, it's a rough one. And that's a smile. Not a confident one, but it's a smile.
But this one is fundamentally different. Sure enough, he has water. Sure enough, he has naval combat. But the thing that I really love about Four Lakes is that this is the true test of your ability to manage numerous things going on at the same time. Land fighting, fighting on multiple bonds. Whoever has the better macro has such an advantage on this map.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was about to say that, like, I'm a little bit surprised that Roost isn't picked here. But then Tempe is here, right? Like, yeah, that's the Roost map. But Japan, Sushi, I don't want to say French or Order of the Dragon on that map, but still Japan, China, just like, I don't want to say a classic matchup because it's not a classic matchup, but it feels like a classic matchup.
Into game number 3 we go here in this best-of-9 grand finals in King of the Rockies. Wam with the color yellow as the Chinese, and to the north it is a puppypaw playing as the red Japanese. It's a 2-0 lead for Wam, who came in from the winner's bracket over here. Puppypaw looking to put that first point on the board.
Yeah, he does have the Civ for it on Four Lakes at least, which is the good thing that's going for him, but we'll have to see. I mean, Wam can always go for something, like a Barbican drop or some shenanigans. I don't expect that. But again, as we talked about last game, having Shuganu as Sushi without going Song Dynasty, because Song Dynasty is a big investment, right? But it unlocks villager production, it unlocks granaries, it unlocks Shuganu for China. It's Is it worth it on hybrid maps like this? Potentially.
Now, one thing I will be looking out for as we do see these scouts running parallel to one another, a much better sheep haul to start with for Puppy. One thing I'm looking for here is whether we're going to see the Coca Township being utilized. Because Shinobi are an asset, but at the same time, if you cannot leverage them to deny ship production on the opposing side, it kind of becomes a bait and it falls off very quickly.
Yeah, it does, right? You don't have the you don't have the eco that's coming in for it for farms, and at some point, farms stop coming in and you start gathering passive wood, which has a small effect, right? I think it's up to 76 or something along those lines. So having that, it's much better than the meditation garden that we saw last game. So, but as I said, sheep count, I want to point out, like on a hybrid map like this, sheep count doesn't matter too much. It kind of matters a little bit for China because you do want to potentially get some taxes or something late game, but you saw as well in the start of the game, Wam, he wasn't even moving out, which is kind of why he lost a little bit of that sheep. He was actually pushing a dare instead. Yeah, it is worth noting as well, Wam actually ended up going for an IO, so he did go for an IO opener. I'm not too up to date on China water builds, but that's a second dock, but it's not on an opponent's pawn, it's actually on his own pawn.
Now this is an interesting call over here because I guess the concern going for a second dock is that you have a finite amount of wood that you can work with. So having to go for a second dock that's not on the opponent's pawn, it just means that you're going to have your fishing split between two pawns. But again, both of these pawns could be aggressed. I don't think there is a villager walking across just yet. Oh, actually, never mind. There's a yellow dot moving north, indeed. Looks like Wam might just be looking for a potential docking coming in from Puppy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just, I mean, he fished out the shoreline fish, was kind of just moving further up. One thing I'm kind of sad, but also very happy to see that I've, like, disappeared away from Four Lakes is the walling meta, where you just, like, wall along the entire shoreline. Just to prevent the dock. Like, I understand that it's very interesting, but he actually is going for a second dock. However, that second dock is on his own pawn, and even on the same pawn.
Yeah, it's a very defensive build so far for Wam.
Yeah. So, I'm a little bit interested to see, like, what Wam potentially is thinking is gonna be happening here. Like, again, right, just as the previous game with Sushi, they have a faster military ship, or they have faster dock production speed, I should say. It could be utilized pretty well as just like you drop the dock and then you have like, or you drop two docks, which goes quick because you have extra villagers speed, and then you just instantly or almost instantly pump out two ships and take over the pond quite quickly before your opponent is able to respond. But as we expected, it's the Coca Township.
It's going to be interesting to see how that gets utilized, though, because there is a very clear target all the way to the east of the map. You have two docks there. You could potentially try to shut those down. It looks like Puppy is sneaking around, but unless he walks all the way to the very edge of the map and tries to just dock in this little corner that is not being seen by Wam, this seems more of a pawn going to the southern lake.
Yeah, so the problem is as well, like, if you are on all three of the outer, except like basically all of the fishing ship or all of the deep sea, except the one that's all the way in the corner, you can see everywhere on the shoreline. So it's not possible to do a dock drop. But that dock drop is going to be happening on a different lake.
It's an interesting dynamic between the two players right now, because Wam opted to play very defensive, focusing both of his docks on his own pond, and 1puppypaw at the same time did the direct opposite, just spreading across multiple ponds and splitting up his fishing eco.
Yeah, and it's not really a term that we talk about a lot in AoE 4. It's more like in Civilization, for example, where it's like, do you build tall or do you build wide? And 1puppypaw is going wide right now. Spreading everywhere, right? I'm expecting him to actually be going for an attack ship on that southern pawn instantly. as soon as he has the resources, just to like make sure that nothing happens. And I believe that archer ship is going up on that dock, and I think Wam is going for his own pond just to defend it.
Yeah, Shinobi will be on the way here for puppypaw, but he's got a very respectable food income here. 700 per minute almost, versus just 400 from Wam here. And one thing that could quickly happen here for puppypaw is just a quick switch into Castle Age, because he already built up a substantial fishing eco.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent fishing eco that's just happening and kind of just being there. I mean, it's a little bit hard to do anything against, but Barbican of the Sun now actually going to be coming up at the very front. So yeah, looks like he actually wants to be going for Shugnu here potentially. Already made some archers, but those are just as defensive mechanism against the Shinobi.
Ooh, the timing is perfect over here. It's not just the archer ship, it's the Shinobi, and this is almost a defensive Shinobi in here. It wasn't sent over to stop the enemy docks on the original pond. It was just sent to prevent this villager from making a new one.
Yeah, that was that was a no. That was a no card that was happening there. But you actually do see a response there instantly to those archers. It's going to be a tower on the gold here for puppypaw.
Archers now coming out here, and that tower, it's much needed, because at this point puppypaw does want to go to Castle Age. He's got quite a few villagers on gold. He's got the 1,000 food in the bank. If he can protect this gold mine, he's gonna be in Castle Age in a minute.
Yeah, and it's not going to be hard, right? It's not like he has to go mine stone or something like HRE does. He just gets that passively from gold. So Oursid's going to be there. Shinobi going to see if they can get some idle time. I don't know if he actually managed to sabotage one of the buildings there. No, it didn't. But yeah, huge shifts now coming in from Wam. That small wood line that you start with has been depleted now and moving over to the safe one underneath the Barbican.
Shinobi now moving out towards the docks as well. One of them got detached here. Just to get rid of these sheep. I don't know whose sheep that was originally. I don't know if Wham stole it or...
That's rude.
Anyway, that sheep is going to be useless for the time being. And it's also a distraction here, because Wham is chasing those troops, which means that the Shinobi could potentially jump this. And a galley might aggro one, or the galley might shoot at one, but the other two will just start torching the dock.
Yeah, and like, again, right? He's trying to see if he can do this. He's actually going to get a villager kill
nice
for this.
pick.
And because the amount of Shinobi has here, if he actually wants to go for some sort of play on this pawn, he can do so because there's only going to be one archer ship, because he can just continuously disable all the docks.
Siege engineering coming in here for Wham. He feels like he needs to do something, because puppypaw, he is going up to Castle Age. He already has the stable going, getting a couple of horsemen out as well. But when that floating gate finishes, we're going to see that flood of mounted samurai very quickly appearing on the field.
Well, the flood is almost... it's very limited, right? It's limited to how long puppypaw can be on this gold in the front. He has two all the way on the back, but they're super far away, and they could be a little bit defended from some assistance from water, but as of right now, puppypaw doesn't have any wood. He doesn't have the resources to actually be investing into anything to help defend that.
I love this interception with the Shinobi and a horseman, just buying a couple of precious seconds over here, and you see it's working. Wham had to pull all the troops away from the ram. This is buying a couple of very, very precious seconds over here for Wham, or for puppypaw, I should say. 3 mounted samurai now in queue, and he also has five Shinobi to work with, which could be really good to just jump this army with the TP.
Yeah, so you can jump the army pretty effectively with that, right? It's Shinobi against spears do actually pretty well, all things considered, right? So you actually have the army comp to deal with Wham's army as of right now, and look at this. Puppypaw knows that he needs to take all the gold right now because something is coming. He pulled all of his vills out there, and now he needs to get out.
Push coming against the towers, but it's double towers, the one of them with the Springald emplacement coming in, and the Jugenu already had to flee. Not enough spearmen nearby to deal with this, I feel there. I think a couple of them are kind of in that ram model, but they're now gone. And the next wave of mounted samurai should be able to deal with this. I don't see the Shinobi anywhere, though. I think they're hitting the eco of Wham, though.
Yeah, we saw in the picture-in-picture, they were actually sabotaging a little bit of what's happening in the base of Wham, so actually being able to intercept almost the reinforcements that way. But now we have a somewhat of an okay mass actually coming out from puppypaw. I say mass, but it's 3 mounted samurai, but still, like, he didn't lose too much when it came to actually the economy here, and was able to hold his position. But again, right now shifting over to that gold in the back.
He needed that gold so much. He's floating 1,300 food. He needs to use it for something. Food Samurai would be amazing over here because Wam is about to launch another push.
Yeah, he's able to, or he's going to try to do that. And honestly, I think 1puppypaw should just give up the position he has on the front here. He's kind of fine, right? He's just going to be chilling in the back, mining the gold there. Doesn't have a Dynamo upgrade either right now, so no Bannerman that's coming in. And again, as you said, right, he needs so desperately the gold right now, which is why he has so many on gold. He has the fishing eco because he has 3 ponds. Like, water from both players was never contested, really.
Mounted Samurai now looking to jump the Rams here, though the Ram, this one just goes down instantly here. Spearmen do pop out, however, and this is no joke. This is 12 Spearmen here. Mounted Samurai are looking to stand and fight, however. The tower does have a Spring Golden placement too, and it is focusing down the spears. It looks like the cleanup might happen on the first army, but reinforcements are now coming in.
Yeah, Spear's gonna be cleaned up, and honestly, this is why Knights are OP, right? It's like, yeah, you have the counter unit to it, but it doesn't really matter, right? Springhold's tower there was helping out quite a bit, and now, honestly, like 1puppypaw, I don't think he can be stopped because, again, he's on the gold in the back, and that was never contested, so Flood's never going to be stopping.
These are still Feudal Age units against a full Castle Age army now. 1puppypaw still looking to put that first point on the board. Maybe he was a little overzealous here, gets pincered by all these approaching spearmen. But now with all that access to gold that you kind of touched on from the north, he's able to start mass producing these mounted samurai. He's up to 11.
Yeah, picking up relics behind this as well, and I mean, he's in a very comfortable position right now, and Wam, like how he's playing his macro right now and how he's walling, he's like, okay, I need to pull back, play defensive, and try to get up the castle. It's very difficult to actually be able to do that, especially when you're outmassed and outclassed in tech this way. One thing I actually would have liked to see Puppy do a little bit earlier, which is kind of hard, and maybe it doesn't pay off in time as much as I think it does, but actually just going full Samurai, because he doesn't, like, Wam doesn't have a counter to Samurai, and if he's able to get a big enough mass before Wam hits castle, he should just be able to fully idle out the economy.
Mounted Samurai looking to take this fight against the Spearmen, but I don't know how long you can sustain sending cavalry against the Spears. These are expensive Mounted Samurai, but it looks like they are still able to overpower. Once again, it's a Castle Age army against a Feudal one. Again, as you touched on this, if these were Foot Samurai, it's a different story, but looks like the build-up is just way too rapid.
Yeah,
and Wam is going to struggle with the second wave.
And 1puppypaw, we can blame the bugged overlay as much as possible, but when he actually doesn't have any upgrades at all, you can't blame the overlay anymore. I like having +2 ranged armor in pretty much all of these fights when there's been so many Shuganu. It would have been so helpful and probably saved him at this point maybe like 4 or 5 mounted samurai, but now
it's sensitive timing. Wam is aging up to Castle Age here. He is getting some more spearmen out, but it's only 8 spears against what is now 23 mounted samurai. Veterancy is going to help a lot for these spears, though, but the numbers are just escalating way too rapidly here for Puppy.
Yeah, now that's going to be happening as well, right? How does Wam catch up with 1puppypaw? Is he going to be going spear, crossbow, supervise the crossbow? It is a possibility. And again, right, he's walled himself pretty well in here without taking a lot of eco damage. Again, the eastern pawns that Wam has, I feel like a lot of these timings that 1puppypaw's had with the aggression, he could have potentially tried to sneak a dog. It's going to be hard, but he's running out of fish here. He's kind of saturated the pond.
27 mounted samurai out there looking to dive the base off of Wam. And that's still just Feudal Age Spearman veterancy a couple of seconds away. But now the mounted samurai are looping around. They're looking for targets here, looking for vills. And that's a scary army if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, and in addition to that, he has the Bannerman as well coming in right now. Like, he has a proper Bannerman, boosts it up, a wall attempt coming in as well, but it's just going to create possibly even a worse fight for Wam than he thinks it's going to do. We're not too sure. The crossbow mass isn't just... It's not there yet.
It's not there, and the Uma Bannerman buffing the Mounted Samurai. Even the Veteran Spearman cannot stand against that. Barely any Samurai fell, and Wam is falling apart. puppypaw is not going down without a fight. He is up on the board with 1 point now.
Yeah, and both players said 5-3. And we're on track to a certain extent.
Well, it looks like game number 4 is getting ready to go. Wam with a 2-1 lead. Any predictions going into this one?
You know, I think, again, the first 6 minutes is what it's going to be all about. These players are great with their defenses, so I don't think Wham's going to be too greedy. I think this is going to go up 3-1 over here.
Oh, interesting call. I would say that maybe Puppy is going to leverage the momentum, but it's going to be a tough Civilization matchup for him because Abbasids, they are just so good against the French. But we head into game number 4 here. puppypaw with the color red facing off against Wam with yellow.
Yeah, and this is actually one of those Civ matchups that the early sheep does matter a lot, especially for French. Not as much for Abba, but French really want the extra sheep. They want to have that, you know, fair bit of food income that's nice, safe, and secured. Obviously, they're known for pocket ecos, going out on the deer, going out on the boar, but the more food, the better, because the big drawback for French is when they have to start making a farm transition.
Of course, that's always a tough one, right? And in general, when you look at a civilization like French, they are just so reliant on food. And I guess one thing that could help puppypaw is that those deer packs are reasonably safe. We've seen a lot worse spawns for deer.
Yeah, and one of the things that we saw Puppy do earlier with his French was not the typical French gameplay that I would say. It was not the early aggression. It was not this kind of keep up your tempo. It was a fast castle. It was a keep in his own base into a pretty fast Imperial with some TCs before that will start acting like keeps when the Red Palace comes up. I don't think you can afford to do that against the Abbasid Dynasty.
It's always a tricky one, right? In fact, I do remember the days when Abbasids became popular as a civilization when French were dominating. People were looking for ways to deal with the French, and one thing that they found out is that just playing super defensive with the Abbasids, leveraging the Spearmen, leveraging maybe Camel Archers, it allows you to just play 2 TC, very condensed and defensive, and then just get to Cost Legend from that point onwards. We've actually talked to a lot of pro players about this. French start falling off very rapidly once you get to mid-late Castle.
Yeah, all the knights that you have, a very expensive unit, a lovely unit. Obviously, we know how much wreckage they cause in lower elos. But right when some walls go down, right when that spear mass gets pretty big where they don't have to constantly run around and try to chase knights, that's really where the knights kind of start feeling worthless. And you'd rather have a massive men-at-arms, you'd have a mass of arbs or whatever else you may think as far as a unit comp.
Yeah, in fact, I remember talking to GOA and Soldier about this, and they were like, yeah, if you don't build a lead by early mid-Castle Age with the French, you are in a very tough spot. And you know, one thing that also hurts the French in this matchup is that Abbasids can just open military wings. So right off the gate, you do have 2 Spearmen, 2 Archers to work with. You can either play defensive with them, or you can potentially harass this Goldmine, which, by the way, is nicely tucked away at the back.
Yeah, one thing that you cannot forget, though, with the military wing units, and I've seen people do this so many times, is dropping the barracks and getting your Spearmen upgrade. Because if those Spearmen stay Dark Age, Knights still laugh when they are taking them down with basically no return damage.
Looks like just a standard French build over here for puppypaw. He's heavy on the gold, makes you think that he's going to go heavy into the Knights play here. No move towards stone just yet, whereas on the other side, Wam already started gathering the stones, so kind of as expected, we're going to see that classic Abbasid 2 TC build.
Yep, and he's with French, there's French builds where you get it early, you get it as you're aging up, or you just forget wheelbarrow altogether. It's going to be the one where as you're aging up, so these villagers in the economy of puppypaw, which obviously TC working a little bit more than the Abbasid dynasties at times, are going to be working a little bit harder than the Abbasids builds.
Good ledge hits for both of these players here. Decent haul of sheep, by the way, for Wam. That's going to be much needed when you're playing so condensed.
Yep, and now starting to move across the map with those spears, with those archers. Meanwhile, Puppy has that knight in queue, and I'm sure he is going head on across. He's actually doing a little bit of some deer laming, as, you know, if you got the scout, you got the APM to do it, you might as well cause a pain in your opponent's side.
And he definitely has the scout, and most definitely has the APM for it.
Yeah, we have seen time and time again. Another knight even in queue, so Puppy is ready to keep up this aggression. and I haven't seen any move over to the stone, so I think he's just going to want to keep up the tempo, kind of make it to where Abba can't place the TC where they really want to.
I honestly wonder if Wam would have wanted to aggress the enemy gold mine, like actually push these spearmen and archers up, and he's just like pivoting away to prevent this deer lane, or he just doesn't care about being aggressive. Because if he actually wanted to go aggro with these archers and spears, he was very much distracted here.
Ooh, and actually the first knight able to get the charge off on the archer and turns back around before any damage taken. So just a nice little trade for Puppy, and outmaneuvers, kind of dodges around where those units start going. So the unit's pretty out of position, and TC location, I don't think was able to be placed where Wam wanted it.
Yeah, I was wondering the same. I think he wanted to go south towards the berries and the hunt, but in the end, he's going to have to place it to a rather lackluster position, to say the least.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, hey, this is near my wood line, kind of helps protect that up a little bit, kind of near my gold mine, but in reality, not a prime time positioning. So the early knights from Puppy did exactly what the goal was. No Vil picks yet, but actually, we do see the knight raiding, trying to circle, trying to delay the second TC. Gets it. Oh, it wasn't the charge in, and oh no! Oh, it gets stuck. Bad pathing, and first knight will end up falling for Puppypaw. This is a massive loss.
It certainly is, but at the same time, berry villagers were pushed away again and again by those incoming knights, and Wam is definitely being forced a lot of idle time upon, and in general, you feel like he's just forced to react to all these nitrates. Now he loses the scout as well.
And the scout's very important. Not going to know if French is making any sort of transition. Are we going to have that castle age play? Are we going to have a transition into mass archers and go with the OG knight archer play? And Wam going ahead and dropping a stables, getting some horsemen, wants to get some map control himself.
There is one more thing with the loss of the scout. You don't necessarily know when the enemy or where the enemy knights are coming from. So many times it's discussed that against French you have to play 2 scouts because you want to have a scout seeing what your opponent is doing, and you want to have one back at home, which just helps you see these incoming knights. But with that scout gone, Wam might actually struggle to keep track of all these knights circling around his base.
Yeah, it does have that TC in a nice location. The wood lines are always kind of this weird spot where once you're right around the corner, you actually don't get great vision of these knights, so not a lot of actual TC damage, but the spears are there, have arrived, and should push those royal knights away. Puppy taking a little bit more damage than intended and has indeed started the archer mass that he is wanting.
Yeah, now, Knight and Archer classically is a build that gets destroyed by Spearman Horsemen, but a lot comes down to the actual amount of horsemen that you can get out there, and that's why being able to deny those berries is so crucial for Puppypaw, and that's why it's so problematic for Wam that he was forced to build that second TC in a very condensed way. You can just see how much he prioritizes being able to get some extra food to be harvested. He's walling off that southern part now.
Spearman right around the corner. Charge, Brace gets baited on out, and Spearman falls. Still no knights falling, and still no villagers falling, which is really the key. Eco numbers are now dead even.
Knights are still circling around the enemy base, but as much as you have chivalry, a lot of these knights are banked up. They will need a bit of a pause, a bit of a break. They might be able to catch this villager to the south, though. This guy is just completely undefended down there.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I always kind of see happen quite frequently. It's like players want a wall. Oh no, great body blockage by the archers. Stops the scout, stops the royal knight, and what a pickup again for Wam. At the same time has a horseman that circles around on the gold, and Puppy a little bit slow to react. Villager still able to be secured and okay, but Puppypaw is starting to kind of seem like he's APM capped over here as Wam is doing things all over the map.
Yeah, Wam has done a really good job just harassing the gold mine, intercepting reinforcements, getting a couple of freebies even. At the end of the day, Puppypaw lost his scout as well, which hurts for these knight raids. Knights have an atrociously low line of sight, so with that scout being lost, it's going to be difficult to acquire targets.
Yeah, and this is really where the scary part for me is what we were talking about before the game started. French really needs to do some stuff early on or else they kind of start falling behind. Well, Wam has played an unbelievable defensive game, braces and gets another Royal Knight. This is, what, 3-4 Knights that have gone down now for Puppypaw, and he only has one worker kill to say for his name.
It's getting concerning here for puppypaw. He's got the archers arriving, but at the same time, his opponent fortified his base. The only real entrance to the base leads through to town centers, but the lack of scout is now haunting Wam over here. He runs into a trap. He actually does have a scout, but it didn't see it through the stealth forest.
Yeah, he remade that scout out of the stables, but still Puppy was able to take a great military trade. Numbers are still climbing for Wam much, much quicker than expected. Now that the TCs are starting to come online, TCs are starting to pay off just a little bit.
One weakness, though, the gold mine. That's the only gold mine that Wam is working on right now. There is one to the south, but it's very far away from the initial town center, and this tower could be devastating. Sure enough, Wam is building up. He's on 2 TCs, but if he gets cut off from gold, he could be in trouble.
And I love what Puppy's doing as well with the outpost. It's not just the outpost. He's following it up, and he's going to grab the deer on that side, too, to deny a valuable food resource from Wam, force an earlier farm transition from the Abbasid than maybe may be intended.
You know, there is a backup gold mine for Wam to work with, and in general, for Feudal Age Abbasids, they don't need a lot of gold. They just need it for attacks, but this is a nice little run by. Walls were incomplete, but at the same time, towers do get spotted.
Tower does indeed get spotted, and the archer number for Wam is not quite even with puppypaws. Puppy has knights right there waiting to dive on that side, but the spears are still there, and Puppy actually having to fall back away a little bit. Tower gets fully denied, and he's still just going to take the deer right there front and forward. Wam doesn't have a scout here, though. He lost his scout again and isn't seeing any of this.
Knights are moving in, though. Spearmen. Not enough spearmen, I feel, here on the front line. Overall, just 8 of them out there for Wam. He started losing villagers on the back line as well to those knights. And let me tell you one thing. The fallback gold mine is all the way to the south behind those walls. But now you have knights behind your walls as well. Those guys will be looking for villager picks there.
Yeah, and if Puppy ran by once with those knights, I'm sure he's about to run on through yet again. I actually see some, I think 2 of those knights are circling right to where that gold mine is. And he does indeed pick off yet another villager. There's some spears able to get some return damage on
and
those
look at that
knights.
Beautiful trap. The villagers made a run for the gate to escape from the knights, so the archers swung that way to intercept them.
Villagers still barely able to stay back alive. Knights are still circling, but Puppy has spotted the vulnerability. He wants to dive all the way through this. Archers decide not to, so the Knights are actually kind of stuck in this bottom corner. 3 villagers should end up falling here from the Knight charges. So as we were saying, Puppy felt like he was falling behind. He's starting to make those valuable moves, starting to get these villager picks that he needs, starting to build that military mass much, much higher.
Remember, French have a villager production bonus, and when you couple that with the fact that you were able to shut down food sources, when you were able to kill villagers...
Oh, I love this fast wall.
Oh, it's a beautiful trap. It's a beautiful trap.
Only a little bit of extra damage able to be done, it seems. One knight should easily end up falling from this, but that might just be it.
Spearman now jumping this, but most of the knights are full HP. They do get away.
He's going for another quick wall. Oh my, this play from Wam is so sick. The knights are yet again cornered. If you don't know what to do against knights, this is it. Right here, and it's going to be a oh.
puppypaw doesn't have a scout. By the time he sees these walls, it's too late.
And another set of spears are circling back around. These knights have just been constantly cornered, and Wam knows exactly where they are. Another knight circling on the front side, but Wam has just done such a good job keeping track of these, even without the scout, constantly cornering them, constantly getting extra damage on.
But was he distracted too much? He has been losing villagers and he's been idled for quite some time. He's only up by 6 eco, which is not a good sign when you're 2 TC against 1.
Yeah, the thing is Puppy has broken through that southern wall, and Wam already decided to reinforce it with an outpost and have to move his army on over. Archers are there, spears are there, villagers are there. There's an outpost here to help, and Puppy decides to take the dive with the knights. Archer's still firing off, and currently Puppy has the archer number, and both of the melee masses are kind of just posturing off from each other. Knights trying to tank up the archer damage and make the trades just a little bit more efficient there for the French.
And they are efficient. All the archers are gone, and when that happens, spearmen will be gone as well. Numbers falling for Wam. He needs to hold this position. He needs the berries.
Another knight is able to get taken down. Not too many left. There is still the outpost helping. They're doing everything they can. Knights are splitting on off now, but this is a defensive game. Wham has all the production closer than Puppy Paws. Is this hold going to be enough? He's still not losing villagers at this point in time.
But more villagers are coming in. If he cannot hold this position, it's game over for Wam.
And you can see how bad he needs those berries, how bad he is struggling for food. And the next set of archers come for Puppy Paw. And Wham just does not have the same tempo, does not have the same eco behind this, it seems.
5 more knights in queue for Puppy. He's got 6 overall on the field, and Wam is losing momentum. He's out of food. Finally, the villagers getting caught in the crossfire over here. We're so close to an even series here.
And look at this, actually Wham pulls the boys, pulls out the shivs, and the archer number is falling. And there's still the outpost. I don't know if this is actually going to be a hold here or not. Villager number is still dead even. Puppy needs the reinforcements to come here faster.
8 knights are still out there. Villagers now fighting that 1 knight off, but more keep coming in, and the villager casualties just keep building up. I don't know about you, but I feel like this might be it for Wam.
It just might be. He has the second TC. Puppy Paw still does not have that one. He needs another food resource, and Puppy Paw knows this. He's fine with throwing away these knights for these trades, and he still has been taking around all the reinforcing archers. There's no spearmen in queue. He doesn't have the food for spearmen anymore.
And he trapped himself!
Oh no! He doesn't have a gate built, and the shivs are out yet again. The villagers are trying to be the military because Wham doesn't have anything else to do.
The walls that were meant to trap the knights a couple of minutes before now trap these villagers in here, and that might be the fall of Wham here in game number 4.
20 villagers have fallen at this point. Wham is down 10 villagers. Puppy wants to even the series. It seemed like it was going so good for Wham in the first 10 minutes, but Puppy kept on the tempo, kept on the aggression, and he is going to end this game in feudal.
18 army against 10 only, but look at Puppy Paw's knight count. Most of his army are knights.
He has almost more knights than Wham has military in general, and the military Wham has isn't the counter to the knights. That's the problem.
Oh my, and one thing that Puppy Paw was doing so well is leveraging all that map control, the board, the deer packs. He needs that food to fuel the war machine, food that Wham is not being allowed access to.
Yeah, and yet another clash going on. Villagers having to fall back away. There's nothing to protect these archers from the knights, and they are about to run rampant here. This is looking awful for Wham after such a strong start.
And at least he has a gate here to try and slip by, but the casualties are just mounting too high. He's down by 17 eco now.
And the knights circle, and if I'm him, I just go right towards the archers, take down the military mass yet again. You can see the relief in the eyes. It is a tie series. We might just be going the distance again today.
First time they played today, it was all the way to 5 games. This best of 9 might just go to 9 because now it is a 2 apiece, folks.
All right, so we're back here with Soldier, Nyan, and GUA. Fortunately, we have a pair of brothers you can tell apart here, but it's 2-2 for the series. Is anybody surprised?
No, not really. I mean, it was looking a little scary at the beginning. Wham was up 2-0, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I thought that might snowball, but Puppy came back, so I'm actually happy for that.
I was going to say, this would be a very different panel if it was like 4-0 somehow, and none of us know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, but Nyan, you haven't been on the cast before, or the panel before. What do you think? Are you
Well, a
having
bit
fun?
uncomfortable sitting between two people, 3 new meat. Yeah.
You know, we've been in this place for 3 days together. We've gotten to know each other
Yeah.
pretty well. But, you know, are you enjoying the event?
Yeah, I'm pretty enjoy. This is the first time I come to the different country to play a tournament.
Okay. Yeah, I know for most of us, this is a new experience. Like, I've done convention work, but a land like this where I'm the guy in charge, very much new for me. So, GUA, what do you think? How are you feeling with your 3rd place?
I feel great. Yeah, I came and I did what I want.
Okay.
You know, going versus Puppy and Wham, you know, they're just next level. They've been playing amazing last couple months. You know, they're like top 3 players now in the world. So, yeah, very happy to get 3rd place here, and yeah, can't take it up from them.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely an argument that they are 1 and 2 even.
Yeah.
Not even just top 3, but 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, in the world, really.
Yeah. That's
Oh yeah.
wild. Yeah.
Not in the guys, in the world.
Yeah.
But no, I'm happy you guys are having fun with the event.
Yeah.
You know, that was my big concern. You guys are gonna come out and just be like, "Who's this idiot?" and "What's this event?" Like, "Oh my god!" Like, but I'm happy everyone's been having fun. I think everyone has had, nothing but good things to say for us.
Yeah.
So, that's what I want as the organizers. I want the players to have fun. I know the spectators have definitely been having fun. I've had a lot of fun meeting everybody. So.
Yeah. Couldn't really hope for more, right?
Maybe we'll see.
We go 9 games, I guess.
Oh my gosh. No, Wham said 5-3.
Yeah.
Wham says he's gonna get an 8.
Yeah,
Do you guys
but
think he's
Puppy
not going
said
to?
5-3 for him.
Yeah. I guess they know they're gonna be close games.
Yeah.
But, like, do you think he was gonna pull away and Wham was gonna go like 3-0, 4-0, like?
It looked like it was gonna happen for
Especially
a little bit.
after Wham took the first series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is Puppy's 3rd series in a row, right?
Yeah.
Because he
Yes.
had to play
He had upper
versus
brackets,
me.
lower brackets, and grand finals.
Yeah.
So I really do wonder, like, how much the exhaustion is getting to him, because he's gonna play at minimum, if he wins every game from here on out, 10, 12 games.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
Mhm.
Yeah. In a row.
I don't play 12 games in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've done that.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I think it's gonna wear on him.
Yeah.
But I
That's
also
why I
think he
thought
definitely
he
has
was
the
gonna
skill to win.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna snowball because of that too. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really considered like the momentum factor of, no offense to UA, but coming off hot off the 3-0.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I've been having a lot of fun. What do you guys think of the Civ matchups we've had so far? Our last game was Abbasid and French, and it feels like we've seen a lot of French.
Yeah, that game was intense. That was so close to being held, but really good micro by Puppy, and yeah, French looks really good on that map. Tempe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this has been French's tournament. I think they've won almost every game.
I think
Yeah.
I lost
Yeah,
with
they
them.
lost a 1 versus Japan.
Okay, you know what? I'm sitting here trying to hype it up. We
Yeah.
don't have to check the stats.
Hey, it makes
Yeah.
me want to
Yeah.
play them for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have been seeing more French, than most tournaments. But yeah, with the rules in this tournament, you have to play so many different civs because you ban civs, from your opponent bans your civs, and then when you pick a civ, it removes the civ from the opponent, and same thing when the opponent picks a civ.
Yeah. It definitely does not allow for like a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
And it also thankfully prevents mirror matches because
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
enjoys those. So
No more French mirrors.
don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. I will say the only mirror I miss is the Mongol mirror because it's just such a mess.
Oh,
yeah.
Like it's
A lot of
just
siege though.
no. I missed the first 5 minutes. I missed like the
The spear
first
attack each other.
7. Yeah, just a Dark Age chaos. That's the only thing I miss about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would say 70% of the time, it didn't go past that. Like somebody would just win in Dark Age.
Yeah, I think we used to play a lot.
We used to play a lot of Siege War. I remember that.
Rising Empires, or what's the other
War
War
Chiefs.
Chief Club?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
remember. You can do a lot of random things. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you go double barrack, and sometimes you think your resource is good. You just go HO.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or the Scout Rush. Back in
Oh
the-
yeah, that was
Oh
fun one.
gosh. Yeah. So we actually have the new draft up here. Looks like Wham got Ayyubids again, and it actually looks like the exact same draft.
Yeah, Puppy still Malians from Wham.
Oh, yeah, I didn't catch that. So, real quick, guys, who do you think's gonna win?
I'm staying with Puppy.
You're staying with?
Yeah.
No, you picked Wham the first
No,
time.
you all did. I went
No,
Puppy.
no, you're gaslighting me.
No.
No, you said Puppy, and I said Wham, and everyone else said Wham.
Yeah. I got Puppy.
I'm so confused. All right. Well, we're going to hand it off to Dabston and Lidicor. I hope everyone has having fun with the event, and we'll see you at the end.
Prairie is an interesting pick for either of these civilizations here, though. Because one thing to understand with Prairie is that you have a very finite supply of wood, and it's a complete nightmare to keep relocating your lumberjacks. So what do? You pick something like French, for instance, a civ that gets a discount on the lumber camps, gets trade for wood. At the end of the day, I'm very curious how this is going to play out with two civilizations that are potentially somewhat unexpected for Prairie as we head into game number 5 here of the grand finals of King of the Rockies. With the color yellow, it is Wam01 playing as the Abbasids, and as the red player, we have 1puppypaw with the Malians.
Yep, and as the Malians are known for trying to get that passive income set on up, and I'm sure we're going to see that cow boom coming on this game, but that costs a lot of wood to get all those cattle ranches going, also have enough for production, all those houses, another pit mine, which you already said it. It is very strained your wood economy on Prairie.
And the thing I don't understand with these civilizations necessarily, especially the Abbasids, is the mindset behind picking this civilization here, as apparently 1puppypaw has had a very underwhelming haul of sheep to start the game with. Although we don't see what was dropped off by the town center. But if he doesn't have at least 4 or so sheep dropped, he's going to be very upset.
I believe we saw at least a glance at 3 or 4 because he circled around his pit mine first, and knowing Prairie, usually you're getting that much, but we still see the scout from Wham tracking
He's
quite
good.
a bit. Yeah, and this is one of those maps that you always see the opponent scout, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so many. And then you look on the other scout, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, no, we're about even.
You could see the face that 1puppypaw made just a couple of seconds ago. I feel like he also was like scouting half the map, and sure, he's got a decent amount of sheep back at home, but he just looked at his scout and it was like, dude, I don't have a single sheep trailing my scout. What's up?
Yeah, it's very disappointing. Oh, and that's where he just spots out Wham scout, and he has his scout cut off, and oh, this is such a demoralizing feeling.
It's so underwhelming because now you're running parallel to the other scout. So you're just going to miss out on the majority of this of the sheep in this trajectory. I'm curious how many sheep we have back at home for Wham, though, because let's not forget, 1puppypaw sees this scout, he might be discouraged, but he doesn't know how many sheep Wham has back at home.
Yeah, the big thing, too, as well with this, a couple more sheep get cut off. He doesn't always know where Wham Scout came from. He has an idea. He can always assume, and in reality, that's where Puppy said, all right, I got to just take my losses and probably just circle back towards my base, but I feel like we still just keep hearing that bell ding for Wham, and Puppy has 0 sheep still.
Something was janky with Puppy's food eco as well, because you see, he actually is almost at 300 gold by the time he started building the landmark. He had the gold he needed for a long time, but not the food. Nevertheless, at least he's going to secure a couple more sheep in that little corner, but it's definitely one of the more underwhelming Dark Ages for him here.
Yeah, 7 villagers on the Mansa Quarry.
Okay.
I feel like every time I say, like, oh, you're going to look and the sheep are going to be even, it is always just like caster curse. Wham has 28 sheep. I mean, he might be saving up for next game.
Yeah, he might be saving up for King of the Rockies too.
I mean, at this point in time, he doesn't even have enough room to like kind of, you always want him like tucked up next to the town center. I feel like the sheep would have to fully circle the town center with that many.
Now, of course, you could say, hey, Malians have cattle, it's going to be fine, and true that, he's going to be all right with cattle. I think the concern is that if you're forced to harvest your cattle at the beginning, that means that your build-up with the ranches and the cattle garrisoned inside is a little slower.
Yeah, and we saw earlier in this exact series, the Mali had to break out on the deer, had to break out on to, the berries, a couple other locations that they ended up getting punished on. And if you got sheep, you don't have to break out on some of those, pocket resources as much. That being said, still all kind of good to go with the initial sheets. Military wing units starting to pop out, and Wham wants to try to go, maybe do some damage on those pit mines on the houses around it, force a reaction.
That pit mine is nicely tucked away at the back, and one thing to highlight on this map, I've just started to realize with the Malians, is that you spawn very close to a large gold vein, which means that you can surround it with more houses. So the initial pit mine spot is a lot better for the Malians than it is on normal maps.
Yeah, it definitely is, but that pit mine's about to be focused a little bit in the future. 1puppypaw already has the wood income to drop whatever production building needed, so would expect him to have an archery range coming soon and maybe queue up a few units.
But wait a minute, this is
Oh my gosh,
an
he's going
unexpected
second
opening.
TC.
It's one thing he's going second TC, but he's opening with a stable. Normally, you prioritize the second TC with the Abbasids, so it might come as a surprise for PuppyPaw to see Horseman approaching so early.
I was saying Puppy's going with the second TC Molly.
Oh wait! Oh yeah, you're right. I was looking at
Yeah.
I was looking at Wam, and he is also piling up stone. But speaking of Wam, he's getting a battering ram going as well. And this could be terrible for Puppy. If you're playing second TC, you have no wood. Especially if he spends his wood on that TC, he won't have anything for production buildings. And I don't think he scouted this ram just yet.
This could just be over before it started. The archery range has been forced.
Oh, no.
I feel like he wanted to go second TC, but now he knows that he has to react to this. This is what I was talking about before this, when you can't decide one or two strats. This isn't that. This is that he is forced to do something differently.
It's more problematic than that. Because of that early Horseman opening, archery range in itself isn't going to cut it. And
The TC straight. The ram straight to the TC.
he needs to start ramming that. Buildings take a lot more damage when they're being constructed.
He could end this before it starts. Dive the villagers with the horseman, force a reaction, jump out, and the ram all that time is still attacking. But Puppy still playing defensive. Wham deciding not to do that. A few of the archers step up.
I don't think he saw this TC in time. I think he was looking elsewhere because this was such a good target. Now, one thing is sure, this is going to make the housing situation pretty bad for PuppyPaw as well, but at least for Puppy, the TC goes up.
The TC does indeed go up, but the ram is already out. Wham has already been producing a ton of military, and I feel like you just double down on this play now.
Yes, you do. Of course you do. Like, if you can keep destroying these houses, PuppyPaw is going to need to place them elsewhere, and that means that he's losing out on this passive gold trickle.
And look at how quick PuppyPaw just did the ram dance. He jumped out, put an attack out, and then jumped right on back in. Horseman still circling. There is a javelin there, but needs to be careful. Oh, and then remember how annoying it is when the pit mines are being damaged. When you force drop off on the, or go back to the gold, they repair it first before gathering unless you click on the exact corner.
Here's a thought for you. What do you need to build houses?
Wood.
What does this map not have a lot of?
Wood.
Yup.
And what is Wham destroying a ton of is all of this wood. He could even start focusing where that initial, wood line is as well.
And there's a second TC behind this by Wham is going for a 3.
He might even go 4 at this point. He knows how much damage he's doing. He's forcing so much a reaction. He can be this greedy. He knows he can. A house is going down PuppyPaw's pop cap. Remember, he has 2 TCs, and both of these aren't working now. Javelin's being dove, but the horseman actually had a few pathing issues there. It's time for the villagers to get pulled. There is not enough units in here to deal with the javelins now, but the damage has been done at this point, it feels like.
It certainly feels like that. At the end of the day, PuppyPaw was quicker with his second TC, but he's only up by 4 eco. Villagers have been pulled all the way to the very edge of the screen, and this horseman is also doing a decent job just picking away at some of these javelins. Villager is also going to fall victim to this. The damage is just so big here from Wam.
Yeah, and the pit mine is still burning. It hasn't been rebuilt on up, and now that you saw a few villagers pull their hammers out, but this is still so many resources that Puppy has been losing, and behind this, Wham's laughing at home, untouched, 3rd TC being dropped, and so he will start climbing that Vil number super, super quick.
Now, PuppyPaw took a lot of damage at the beginning, but we haven't really seen the true power of double TC Malians. And I feel like we've seen this so many times. You think you've done a lot of damage to Malians, but with all the passive resource income, the cattle-based economy, now 2 TCs as well, recovery might be quicker than many of us would expect.
Yeah, you're not far off there. You can already see the houses being fully surrounded by the pit mine yet again. Last horseman that is up front and forward about to be taken out. And we're saying, our observer Cow over there is saying that he thinks it's going to end up being a Farimba play instead of the Cow Boom.
It's a good idea on this map when you have a lot of gold, and it's a good idea if you want to finish games quickly. It's not a good deal to make cattle on that far away mill, by the way. He got away with that for now, but if your opponent sees that and it kills the cattle there, it's near useless. But I guess it just goes to show how quickly puppypaw wants to get the cattle out. He needs it, remember. He's struggling with food because of the lack of sheep. And that, I think, is very well represented by the fact that he's on berries with so many vills.
Yeah, not just a few vills, and he's still on the at-home sheep. So if he runs out of those sheep, runs out of those berries, he's going to be only left with those cows, and he's going to have to start killing the cows rather than parking them in the ranches.
Now, he's going sofas here, and those are very food-heavy units. So he needs that very steady food income. Otherwise, his production is going to be awfully inconsistent.
Yeah, the big thing here is he does need to kind of start getting some information on the other side. He was stuck in his base for so long. Wham had that timing attack, and oh no, it's actually another ram that has been made. There's still horsemen out on the field. There's still a few of the spears, and so he's just going to send these rams on in, try to take out some more houses, try to put more strain on that wood eco.
Yeah, the second ram is still alive, so if it doesn't get focused down, it can do a lot of damage still. At the same time, horsemen are looking to harass the lumberjacks, and you can see, I feel like Wam is kind of shifting focus now. He's focusing the lumberjacks, realizing how little available wood you have, partly because this TC wasn't able to secure additional tree lines.
No, he had to drop that TC very, very conservatively. Ram was already walking towards the houses around the pit mine before that, and the Ram is at 5 health still. I mean, still alive though, and still can do quite a bit of damage. Cow number is starting to build up, and the cows are starting to be eaten as well.
Yeah, and look at that, 9 cattle garrisoned already. I feel like as much as, Wam had a really good start here, at the same time, it was a big investment to invest in the rams, get all these cavalry units out there. And when the dust settles, he killed 1 villager. He's up by 6 overall, and he is going to have the head start going into Castle Age.
It always feels good when you can get to Castle Age first as the Abbasid, or even, at a somewhat similar timing. Good body blocking by that horseman. We always know how the pathing goes in between those berry bushes. Never fun, and Puppy ran back in with the build, pulled out the shifts. He has reinforcements on the way, but is this worth it for him? I guess it could be with the Mali villagers. Don't really care as much. But so many villagers fall. He needs those berries just like the other game. Wham needed all the food that Puppy kept pressuring.
I honestly wonder if he thinks that villagers are fine against horsemen in that matchup because he wants to focus on the cattle now. If he lets those horsemen live, they will continue to harass and annoy him. Now he traded what is 3 or so villagers for the horsemen, but at the same time he's got that cattle build up. Still, Wam is on the way to Castle Age, and now there's an 11 eco lead. That, of course, does not count in the pit mines. It doesn't count in the cattle. And when you look at the overall resource income, you have to say it's pretty close.
Yeah, and not a great choice. A second pit mine there from puppypaw. Doesn't have a lot of room to put the houses all around it. We saw a few of the wood lines kind of near it, kind of going to cause some weird placements potentially, and can't get the full set of houses that he may want.
And now, in the meantime, Wam is also starting to run low on sheep. So, as much as, food denial was a thing at the beginning against puppypaw, now things could change. Although, at this point, it looks like Wam is just starting to fortify the whole map. He says, okay, this map is very easily raidable, so I'm just going to completely wall myself off to prevent that from happening. Grand Fulani Corral is going to be low.
There's no scout here with those sofas, so great break by the spearman. And Wam just had his... I love how Wham's actually escorting the villagers that are building the wall. This is usually where you'll see, like, the first couple Vill picks of the game when players are playing super clean. They're like, oh, I just need to wall up. And they send out a Vill willy-nilly, and they're like, no, 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 you need to escort that villager, make sure it finishes the wall in time.
Horsemen now looping around here looking for the Vills, but that's a lot of javelin throwers, and they will be costly javelin throwers soon because Grand Fulani Corral is on the way. And when it's all said and done, the Castle Age differential is only a handful of seconds.
Yeah, and there have been so many times where, well, I will say he does not have the full set of cows in there, but there have been so many times where Mali are down 10, 20, 30, even 40 villagers that I've seen, but because of the cow boom, they can keep up the pressure, keep up the aggression, and the Vill difference doesn't matter.
And remember, we still have two TCs for puppypaw. His build-up is going to be quick, and sure enough, Wam has 3, but Wam is going to stop at 100, 120 or so, and beyond that point, it doesn't really matter that you have 3, right? So it's just what this is going to come down to is a much more rapid escalation of the villager count all around. But the closer you get to that absolute maximum, the smaller the differential is going to be in terms of the significance of that production.
Lancers circling around, making sure these Sofa aren't able to break through this base, and at the same time, boot camp being invested into from Wam, main infantry army sticking together while the Lancers are going to continue to circle around and do some raiding and picking off units here.
What is this Ram doing here?
That was the Ram from way early on. I think he was kind of just hiding it out and hoping that, you know, some random point later in the game he can send it into the pit mines when maybe no Vills are there and Puppy's distracted.
Yeah, maybe he was just waiting for his opponent to just drop that very mill in there. But things have slowed down quite a bit here. But as I'm saying that I see a huge clump of units moving out here for Wam. Mostly Spearmen and Archers, though, facing off against a lot of Javelin Throwers and quite a few Sofas.
Ooh, second pit mine starting to be focused down. There's a ton of villagers that were on that. Doesn't look like Wam wanted to take it. There's a Mangonel on the way, though. And this is where fights get scary. Those Javelins can't really step up as much as before.
These Spearmen will have Phalanx and the Archers will have Composite Bows, so this army is no pushover. They're a lot better than what they look like. At the same time, you have quite a lot of Sofas out there with imported armor on the way. They'll be looking to intercept reinforcements and they're looking to snipe that Mangonel.
Yep, Mangonel just always needs to be focusing on those Javelins. First shot gets a decent bit of 4. Javelin still sniping down everything from the backside. Spears stepping up. They actually soak a decent bit of damage. Remember, those Javelins don't counter out the Spears as much as they do counter out those ranged units.
Mangonel caught a little off guard over here. Has to pull all the way back at the same time. Raid at the north coming in from Wam. And I don't think those are Horsemen. Those are Lancers.
Yeah, and those Lancers will do a significant amount more damage. Pit mine starting to be focused down. Puppy is having to fall back. The Bill lead has grown to 30 and still only 12 cows for Puppy.
And it's really about that build-up that we had for Wam as he was aging up, and at the same time, he's still been harassing his opponent here. And the siege being available is a huge factor. This Ram is able to leverage this temporary momentum he has and turn it into destruction. Destruction that might cause a housing problem for puppypaw. He's starting to lose houses here, and he could struggle to replenish his forces if he continues losing these houses.
Yeah, look at his wood income. He has 8 wood in the bank. He has 120 wood per minute. He needs to move to a different wood line, but it's going to be hard to do so without even being able to drop a lumber camp.
This is getting dicey. And the Javelin Throwers will not be great against Lancers here in Mangonels. Wam is adding additional Lancers. He's getting range defense as well. And the houses keep getting destroyed. Puppypaw will not be able to rebuild them. He will not be able to build more army.
Yeah, Wam looks like he is trying to take this momentum back, building another Mangonel. Has his other Mangonel getting focused down by some Sofa. Spears need to step up, and a great pullback from Wam by the Mangonel. Barely alive, needs one more hit to get taken down. And Puppy closes the gap. Next Mangonel has to be canceled. This looks like a hold from Puppypaw.
Looks like a hold, but it is an expensive hold for sure. So many Sofas went down over here. I don't know if there's a second layer behind this for Wam, and there is. New Spearmen arrived to the front, more Archers on the way as well. And again, these Sofas are just awfully expensive to just stand and fight against Spears.
I feel like this is almost what happened the other Mali game, though. The Javelin number kept climbing. If you don't actually close the gap and do enough damage, Mali will be fine. But that's where Wam, he's had a couple Rams continuing to take down all of this production, all of those houses, and wood will continue to get worse and worse and worse as this game extends.
Castle is going to be cancelled over here by Wam. He wanted to move all the way up here, but he's just going to flee and reposition that fortification. In the meantime, Lancers are being mixed in by Wam. Is going to get cleaned up, but when you look at the eco, it looks depressing. Sure, you have the cattle. Sure, you have the passive gold income, but not a single lumberjack for Puppypaw, and he's down by 50 eco overall.
And look at how many villagers over there were at like half health, with 10% health, 20% health. Every time Wam goes back with a Lancer, it might not get connection, it might not, you know, it might only cause a little idle time, but eventually it's going to start getting kills and kills and kills, and those villagers are starting to whittle down.
Wam has the majority of the relics as well. It's going to be a 4-to-1 split. Big raid coming into the north, but there is a keep there to protect those villagers, and I feel like this is the difference between the two. Wam is behind walls, Wam has fortifications, his eco is near untouchable, whereas Puppypaw has been bleeding villagers left and right. He lost 27 in this game.
Yeah, and that's crazy to hear. Usually it's the Abbasid losing the 27 villagers or so, especially with 3 TCs, but 3 TC Abba losing 3 villagers. Economy should be through the roof, and I actually think Wam might be posturing up for Imperial Age in the near future. As I say that, he spends a few more of his resources, but 1,000 food, 1,000 gold in the bank.
I feel like he might want to just finish here. Imagine if he invests all that food and gold into Lancers.
That's what I
They
would
will
want
be
him to
great
do.
against Sofas, and they will just make minced meat out of the javelins.
And even further up walls. I love this from Wam. He's probably going to grab the Sacred Sites, try to get puppypaw on a timer as well. But more importantly, all of these walls cause delay, give him more and more of this map control, and Puppy will slowly be running out of those precious resources at home.
And behind this, Wam has a complete farm transition, something that we haven't had the chance to talk about. It's so crucial to have that sustainability, and he's got 2,600 food per minute, but this is not exclusively berries and hunt. This is sustainable, and he's aging up with the trade wing.
I knew he was going to end up going imp. I didn't know the trade wing was going to be the choice, but you just mentioned income per minute, and then I just real quickly did some math in my head, and Wham's at like 5,500 income per minute, and I look up at Puppy's side, and he's at like 3K. So quite a bit of a difference there, even with the Mali Cow Boom online. It just cannot compete with a 50 villager deficit and the Abba Boom.
It's 198 population against 131, and it's going to be an age advantage as well. Things are looking so good for Wam over here. He opened with 2 victories in this series. puppypaw came in with 2, but after the redraft...
Mangonels.
Oh, beautiful hit!
Perfect shot on the first one. Second one needs to be careful. Sofa trying to close the gap, trying to find out where one of these Mangonels might be a little bit vulnerable. Able to get some charge in, but great surround by Wam on his own Mangonel to keep it alive and do some return damage on the Sofa.
The micro is just insane over here. Such an important game for both, but again, Wam on point, keeps the Mangonels alive, and he continues to push deeper and deeper into the enemy base.
Yeah, next pit mine yet again being burnt. It looks like the next gold up at the top, probably running somewhat low, and we all know that Mali need their gold. That is their lifeline, and Wam is making sure to deny it.
puppypaw is really trying to get some raids going, those little groups of red units on the minimap trying to find villagers, but there's just not a place where they can go without being shot at. And at the same time, Wam is marching into the enemy base over here. And now he's going to have Imperial Age. I would not be shocked if Puppy resigned when he sees that Imperial Age.
He could actually go imp again. He could go with H5 because he hasn't been losing units. He doesn't have anything to spend stuff on. Now he does going imp, so he can start getting those imp upgrades. But it's always funny seeing that happen with Abba. He didn't lose anything during that time, and he is just diving into Puppy's base.
Now he breaks through the walls, and the second layer is a little too late.
Whoa,
to prevent that!
Denied. Close, but no cigar over there.
And that could be a lot of eco damage. That might be the very thing that puppypaw needed, but it's still problematic because now he doesn't have the houses, and he cannot rebuild them because he doesn't have wood.
Even worse, the cows are about to get focused. He's about to start hitting the cattle ranches, which cost wood, but more importantly, kill the cows, and now the cow boom is offline, but Puppy looks like he wants to take this fight. Numbers are pretty even, but Puppy does not have Siege, and Siege always is superior, always so scary to go up against.
Elite upgrades are slowly coming in now for Wam. He's going to have a better and better army, and the Mangonels are still being kept alive so well.
By Wam, one ends up falling, but the next Mangonel stays alive. I've seen Puppy dodge these, so not the biggest issue, but Puppy's numbers are falling. Great Mangonel! Oh my God! That is just all but over. Lancer reinforcements come in. This is it. You said he wanted to end it here and now, and that is exactly what he's doing. Finds villagers as well on the berries. Puppy is scrambling.
He is. He might clean this up, but I don't know if there is enough juice left in that tank. He's lost so much. He's down to 105 population. He's facing off against 180. And really, the only thing that stands between Wam and victory, I feel, is that little distraction, that raid inside his base. But even that might not get puppypaw back in this one. Wam moves ahead with a lead, 3-2.
Yeah, after losing and dropping the 2 after going up 2-0, he reclaims the momentum, he reclaims the lead, and goes up 3-2 against his brother.
One thing is sure, I feel like the civilizations remaining for puppypaw are a little bit more specialized, and I think you have to have a very specific way of playing them and having a game plan for given maps, whereas, let's say civs like English remaining for Wam, it's a civilization that's almost plug and play on many maps, and it's fairly established how you're going to play that.
Yeah, I was sitting there looking, and I was like, "Well, he's got Abba still available." I was like, "Oh no, it's just a black flag. It's not grayed out because it's black. It's hard to see that." But enough of this. Let's jump on into the 6th game between this final series. It is puppypaw in the red as JD, and it is Wam in the yellow as the Roos.
It's a best of 9, folks, and Wam has the lead right now. But it was very funny having all these conversations with the players before this final, having all the conversations with the casters as well. And I think 9 out of 10 people on site said that this is going to be a 9-game series.
Yeah, you're not far off, and I love the build by Wam. We've seen a couple different strategies from the Roos early on, and Wam, I know talking to him, he likes the fast castle strategy. And going up into Feudal Age, he decides to go with double hunting cabin. Gives him a lot of extra kind of this earlier gold income. Yeah, he's not going to get early wheelbarrow because Roos can't do that anymore. But it gives him a lot more gold trickle and a very clean age-up timing still without having to go out to gold.
And now, one thing I want to highlight regarding the previous game is that puppypaw had basically the worst of all starts. We've seen how underwhelming his sheephole was, and that definitely contributed to his downfall. In this game, it looks like it's a little bit more reasonable for him. And one thing I like about his setup here is that you have a lot of pocket ecos to go for. I think that's one of the things I've noticed him do in this series. He has been very aggressive expanding his eco. The game he won, the French versus Abbasids, he spread all around. The game he won on 4 lakes, same thing. He went for 3 out of the 4 pawns. So I feel like that is the pattern that we're going to have to look at. And when you're Wam, you want to be out there punishing that because based on those games, you expect puppypaw to move out for the deer, move out for the boars. You got to be ready to harass that.
Oh my gosh, and look at that first boar location for Puppy. Very, very close to the base, very close to the cliff line. I feel like it's almost, you'd much rather go to that than the berries. But the same thing can be said for Wam. He's got a deer and a boar location next to that back wood line. It might not sound the greatest, but a Kremlin back there, it doesn't do much, but it still increases your wood eco, and those 2 food resources are going to be safe forever.
Now, I remember an earlier set in this event where we've seen a Jeanne D'Arc attempted tower rush, basically by artificially keeping her low level and then trying to get that level by building a tower. But I don't think that's going to be the case over here. That kind of fell flat. But guess what? No Kremlin in here. It's going to be the Golden Gate.
Yeah, I think Wam is just going to go with what I was mentioning earlier, just trying to get that fast castle build, have some extra gold trickle from the hunting cabins, use that gold to buy food if you need it, or just get in more gold and you know, obviously save that on up, get a clean castle age timing. I want to say the high trade house against, he played Makomi earlier today or it was yesterday, and it was a 269 gold high trade house. So let's see if that is going to be any sort of similarities here.
That's a very high trade house.
Yeah, looking at the spots as far as the wood lines go, I don't think you can get anything that high, but still easily 100 plus, especially the high trade house has a little mini buff without actually realizing with the bounty rework because deer count for 25 extra gold now.
Well, that's cool. I did not know that, but I love these walls though. Lot of food in here. A boar, a pack of deer, and it's very easy to wall off. And that has been the theme for Wam in the previous games, if you think about it. Every single game, he was playing very heavily into wall.
He just fully walls it in, and I love this. Just don't allow any way in.
I don't blame him. It's not a big investment, and you can lose games on little holes like that.
Yeah, and it's also one that these aren't just regular walls. These are roost walls.
True.
So good luck trying to send 1, 2, 3 knights there to burn it down. By the time they get through that wall, villagers can rebuild it up. They can just walk back through the other side through a gate, and then now you got another wall to get through. And Puppy actually going on over to the stone, so looking like he wants to go with the 2TC play with JD.
Interesting idea here. He's got a very well defendable base, but I do not know if you want to allow the Roos to just do whatever they want with all this food available across the map.
Yeah, and Wam has moved the mass amount of villagers over to that deer, over to that boar location, so I'm sure he's going to start that. But Puppy, he looks like he is planning to do the exact same thing. Not now. He was just like, hey, I'm going to that boar eventually, but I want to go ahead and get wheelbarrow. So he didn't want to drop that one by the berries because he wants to go to the better location.
Apparently, a villager was lost in here. Maybe the boar killed it. I don't know, but that's that appears to be the case here. A villager lost, and one thing I want to highlight is that the destroyed value shows up for puppypaw, and that's a bit of a glitch. And it usually happens when it was a nature kill. So I'm thinking it must have been a boar accidentally aggroed or something.
Yeah, I mean, he did kill the boar behind those walls, so maybe just flew a little too close to the sun, wasn't paying attention, thought it was a hit in his scout like you're usually supposed to do, let it tank up your scout. But, you know, mistakes happen, might have been looking somewhere else onto the map.
Well. Tickets are available in the Golden Gate, but second TC's got to be on the way. No surprise for puppypaw here. He is once again going for the Archer Jeanne D'Arc, and that has been the theme throughout the event. And I actually talked to a lot of players, and some of them were surprised that players are leaning towards Archer Jeanne so heavily.
Yeah, it gets to a point, especially if you get into the late game, she's so good at sniping out Siege. It's really one of the things that people don't always realize. But Puppy dropping his second TC back by that boar, and exactly as expected, Wham is macroing up to castle. He's got wheelbarrow in queue now. You can see how the bounty trickle has started to build up. He's about to hit that 250 bounty mark, but also about to be able to drop the landmark here in the next minute or so.
Now, interesting. What is this?
It's the JD buff.
Oh, yeah.
Villagers around it.
Fair
Construct
point.
33% faster.
I just blanked out for a second. Yep. Second TC will be scouted by Wam, and he has a second scout available as well. Gets that critical piece of info, loses the scout in return. Wall is being blocked here just for a second. But one thing I was thinking about with Archer Jeanne is that players are now always focusing Jeanne D'Arc every single game. And when you have an Archer Jeanne, you can keep her at the back, so at least melee units cannot beat her up. That's
not the most optimal high trade house feeling there.
But it's going to be nicely tucked away. And with all the extra food that you're getting from the deer there, it's going to be a very nice starting point for your food eco. Yeah, observers are showing to us better spots, but
very
I feel
risky
like,
as well.
Oh,
Knights
against
out on the
Knight,
field.
sure.
What if Archer Jeanne and then one Knight walks up to that location? You just lose the game right then and there.
Exactly. I wonder what the game plan is here for Wam, though, because he is going to progressively fall behind an eco. So he's going to need to turn that into relics. Now, the problem here is that turn that costly advantage into relics, that is. Jeanne could get the snipe.
And she should get the snipe. If she wants to use her ability, might be wanting to save the ability, though.
I think you get the kill. Denying info is huge, and you're also getting that extra XP, too. But now, Wam is out of military units. Nothing. Not even a scout. And this is my concern for Wam here. He is going to get outnumbered in eco, but he doesn't have the map control to make up for it by securing relics. So I don't know, maybe he wants to go horse archers here and get map control?
I think that's exactly it. I've seen both him and Puppy play horse archers going with this fast castle build. It's also really solid if you think about what, you know, JD has done, except for the walls that are in play, because you can't run around the base. You can't go on these pocket ecos that JD might want to be on, because it's already all walled on off.
And indeed, it is going to be a very classic build from the Ruse. Fast Castle Horse Archers takes you back to, I don't even know when, 2022?
Yeah, I think that was the day and age of the horse archer meta. That I think Demu was one of the main ones that was a lovely, lovely Ruse player and just microed the heck out of those horse archers.
Build-up is very slow, though. And when you play horse archers, you need to have a big mass. And I feel like this might be just too slow of a build-up here for Wam, because Puppy's response is an immediate cost age as well. And Knights will beat horse archers when you only have a couple of horse archers out there.
Yeah, and the big difference with his castle age is how much extra resources he has behind his walls. He's got 2 extra gold veins. He's got an extra stone. He's got extra berries. He still has that board that he's been on. And more importantly, his 2 TCs have been rolling and operating this whole entire time.
Decent gold haul from the high trade house. Not too bad, not too great. You do have some of these hunting cabins, by the way, potentially claiming some of the trees for themselves.
Yeah, one of the things, though, is that we've already kind of started to see this bounty number start to climb. It is not 500 for Tier 3 anymore, but 750. So don't be fooled if you remember the old days of Roos, as now they know bounty can get a lot more over the course of the game.
Wam is going second DC, a very delayed second DC here.
He actually, the Macomb game I was talking about.
Is this a keep drop?
I think it's going to be a second TC. Or
No,
maybe even
wait,
3.
like he's got stone in the guild or in the Golden Gate, and he already mined 350. It's gonna be a TC, but I don't know what he's saving up for with the guild hole. Or I keep calling it guild hole. The Golden Gates guild hole is the landmark on the other side for Puppy.
Yeah, the second TC is dropped very up front and forward in an aggressive location. So much for those walls, so much for the safety on the backside, as that TC is an easy opportunity to focus from PuppyPaw if he desires.
You know, Puppy doesn't have a massive army either, but one thing that's pretty cool here, besides the fact that Jeanne is almost tier 3 without basically any kind of engagements happening. Capturing the sacred sites and getting all these boar kills just goes to show why you pick Jeanne D'Arc on a map like this. You can get that level very, very easily, especially if you're not being aggressed.
Yeah, just a little bit of extra XP does end up going a long way. Looking back and forth, there is a third TC that has been dropped for Wam, so it was not the keep play like you were talking about potentially. He wants to catch up in that eco and not fall behind.
I mean, I was partially right. He was getting enough stone for a keep, but instead of building a keep, he built 2 TCs. And I feel like it's a rinse and repeat of the previous game now. He is delayed with the extra town centers, but he's going to try and catch up. And to be fair, one of the things I've actually seen in this whole series...
Oh, the crossbows come out of nowhere.
Oh, and that's nasty. Crossbows just making mincemeat out of these knights.
Yeah, good kiting back and forth. There's one of those lower health knights, and both about to fall. Only one left. JD still on the backside, and more reinforcements coming through.
Beautiful micro. Your knights falling, monks falling, and those are expensive units out there for PuppyPaw.
The monk not able to get far enough back home. Crossbow number still starting to climb on up, actually from either side, as Puppy's starting to make arbs of his own.
I love how production gave us guild hole on top right as well. Like at this point, they're giving up 27 panels, and we're like, oh shoot, we need this panel up too. Gotta love their work here.
Absolutely, and Crossbow's trying to protect up those villagers building the wall and doing a great job, but JD's still getting XP, and this can always prove to be a problem.
Yeah, this is a concern. JD's almost level 3 here.
And Wam gets the relic going there.
And it's huge because that's relic number 3 for him. Like at this point, he's gonna be at least 4. The only relic. Oh, what a snipe!
Sniped on out. She was super low health. I did not think that Puppy was gonna bring her back on in, but he did, and he gets away with the Knight. Stealth Forest is always one of those that, with God vision, sometimes you don't always get to see everything.
Puppy has stone for a castle though, and that is gonna be a castle. That's not gonna be TCs. I wonder how aggressive he's going to be after all these fights.
Yeah, he's also picking off a few vills here and there, so Wam, while he may be catching up a little bit with the extra TCs, not so much if you can't protect the villagers that your TCs are making.
Yeah, Puppy does have enough stone for a keep here, and just while we have a bit of a brief moment here, I want to highlight, I feel like a lot of these players, Wam and Puppy both, have seen some games from Soldier and started to take over certain elements. Like, I see so many moves that Soldier normally makes. This crazy 3, 4, 5, 7 DC plays when they fall behind an eco, or just going super aggressive on these pocket ecos. It's so nice to see in this LAN environment how players might have been inspired by the games that they have seen from their peers.
Yeah, I know the exact game. You're actually, Soldier's done it multiple games, whether it was the
He did it every game.
You're right, it was kind of every game. And it ended up playing out very well. It kind of puts that extra pressure on your opponent. If they're not scouting, they don't have the information, they might let you boom back up, because usually when you go 2 TCs, your main goal is to stay protected, make sure you're good, because you're building up that Vill lead over time.
Wait, where is the keep for Puppy? There was a... Okay, there is the keep. I got scared for a moment. He shouldn't have lost it, but he placed it in the base, canceled it, and all I saw was a disappeared castle and no stone. So I was just like, for his sake, I hope that he just replaced it elsewhere, and he did. And he is going to have 2 sacred sites here. and Jeanne capturing the Sacred Site gives her level 3.
Puppypaw leaving a scouting sheep out there in the middle. I'm not sure. I don't think Wam. Yeah, Wam still has not fully completed the walls in the center. And Puppypaw, I'm not sure if he's realized. Yeah, I think he realizes it now. He sees the lower health walls and goes, "Oh, I killed the vills that were doing that."
He's
Wam
not
never-
bringing the sheep though.
Oh. Wam doesn't have a scout here with the army. He actually doesn't have a scout at all. And this is a map with quite a bit of stealth forest. So you need a scout, or else you can kind of just start getting run around, start getting sniped, having more efficient trades on the other side due to vision.
He needs those walls complete in the middle. If he does, he's going to have such a good sectioned off map, good for future trade and for a lot of things. But as long as this is open, these knights can run in. And what Puppypaw will want to do is just run circles around the enemy, hit those villagers, and make sure that the villager lead that Puppypaw still has, it is maintained.
And just as we say it, Wam did try to go back out to finish those walls, but at the worst timing, right as Puppypaw is deciding to step through with this whole mass, and this is not a mass to be dealt with lightly. Tons of knights, tons of arbs, and while Wam does have the horseman mass to try to dive the back line, it's always easier said than done.
I don't think Puppy saw the horseman though, and that could be nasty. The horseman can easily pinch the arbaletier, and Wam has enough crossbows to annihilate the knights.
Yeah, we have seen the point where Puppy is up at, Wam is up at 1,100 bounty, but Puppy is diving the base. Wololo was attempting to happen, and Puppy does not care. He is going in. He thinks this is his timing. Horsemen need to pull all the way back. They were pressing forward through the walls. Crossbows still trying to kite back the Arbs, and Arbs are just under TC fire. I feel like Puppy, he thought this was a good fight for himself, but in reality, there's only 2-3 knights left, and there's still 10-15 horsemen here.
Wam could have held this easily with the crossbows, but with the horsemen coming in, this is just a complete cleanup. And at this point, you're lucky if Jeanne D'Arc gets out of here alive. She might get surrounded.
And the crossbows absolutely decimate her, decimate the whole entire army of Puppypaw. He had a lot in queue, he has a lot more in queue, but it never feels good when you just lose your whole entire mass and don't have anything to speak for. He didn't do really any damage other than a little bit of idle.
Oh my. At least he has the walls, but now Wam will be able to complete his walls. One thing that's still there for Puppypaw, though, is that food in the guild hall. He is lacking gold, though. He's lacking gold very severely.
Yeah, he has a lot of safe golds behind multiple different walls, multiple different locations, but
no way.
He needs to be able to hold. No, there's not a... Oh, the stone wall didn't get fully finished over there. The, wow, Warrior Monk took down the 2 villagers that attempted to build that wall.
That's a critical stone wall. That is a large gold vein. But at the same time, this push is... It's scary. 20 horsemen, 30 crossbows. It's a 3-to-1 numbers advantage compared to Puppypaw.
Yeah, and this time, Wam said, all right, you dove my base, it wasn't too good. Well, I'm going to dive yours, and let's see if it is the same result, or let's see if he actually gets damage done, gets build kills, idle time, maybe burns down this TC that only has 2 villagers near.
And it's an expansion TC. The HP on this is not massive.
Stone walls should be able to get finished up, and that's exactly what Wam is starting to focus on. So if he burns this TC, it is going to now be a 3-to-1 TC differential.
TC's gonna go down over here, and if they burn through these walls, remember those stone walls don't have gates on them. The villagers could be trapped on the gold mine.
Knights and horsemen diving in from the side of JD. Crossbows still just trying to kite back, but the horsemen don't trade efficiently into the knights. They want to get back onto the arbs, but then your crossbows are left without any front line. JD getting a ton of XP here in this fight, but it is quite a bit of ways from level 4.
That's a lot of expensive knights being focused down here, but I don't think Wam was doing a perfect job with the focus fire. He was shooting at a lot of horsemen instead of knights, so these knights survived a lot longer than they should have been.
Yeah, and the horsemen were into a lot of the knights straight on as well, and Wam, just like Puppy, you know, at least with his, he took down a TC to speak for himself. Army numbers still relatively even after that, but he should allow himself to climb very, very high on eco now. He's up 12 villagers already, and it'll only get a lot worse from here.
But there is Imperial. The food being pulled.
It's under an outpost.
Oh, that's... No way. A horseman can just go there and
there's only like 5... Oh, okay. He's got 18 villagers. It says 18. There's only like 6 on it.
I think he sent more villagers in there, but this is critical because he wants the trade. He is securing the neutral market. He already has the corner for the trade, and he used the food from the guild hall to get this landmark up, and it will not be denied of him.
Yeah, and you can see he wants to go take the boar after that, keep being dropped on this gold vein, and at least we'll be able to deny villagers from that 8k gold vein, but the red palace is going up, and Wam is not going to be too far behind trying to match the age, as you can see the resources in the bank for himself.
Yeah, high armory is going to be on the way. Now, one thing to consider is that puppypaw went up with the guild hall.
Triple layer. You don't have stone walls. You got to do something to deal with.
You can do Spaskaya Tower and just get stone walls. But yeah, one concern here for puppypaw is that the food he needed for Imperial was a one-time thing on the guild hall. He's at 700 per minute, whereas Wam is at 1700. The eco differential is just so massive.
Yeah, we always talk about it with French, but it's the same for JD. They really, really start to struggle when they're forced on farm transitions. We see a few farms in the base. Horseman starting to dive. Wall has not been rebuilt. And there is the high armory from Wam matching up that tech age bonus.
High armory on the way, and the spearman upgrade is also being brought in here by Wam. So he's expecting more knights from the opposing player. But I don't know about you, but this could easily be a very, very long game here because now trenches were dug. One thing to highlight, though, is that Puppy does have stone walls. Those are difficult to break through. Wam is only on palisades, and this middle area is very long, hard to defend, and only a single layer.
Yeah, the one thing that Wam might have going for himself is obviously having the high armory. You get a little bit of some extra siege superiority in a sense. Springalds get a little bit longer range, so let's see if he tries to turn this more into a siege war, which obviously counteracts that stone walls pretty well.
Maybe he will. For now, not a lot of siege out there, just one mangonel from Wam. But he does have a really good food eco. That is well set up, unlike the one from puppypaw. If puppypaw wants to play a long game, he needs to get some farms going, and that will take time. That will slow down his momentum.
Look at the Q from Wam right when he hits him. 7 Streltsy in Q. He's got res to spin. He's got res coming in, and the Streltsy are a unit that, yeah, I mean, horsemen do pretty well into those costs effectively, but they shred everything in their path.
They are. You do need a front line, though, and one thing to highlight here is that puppypaw does have a lot of mobility with these cavalry, so he can shift from the left to the right. And that's something that he's trying to exploit here, trying to break through the walls and maybe even catch those villagers before they finish the second layer.
Yeah, second layer getting pretty close to finishing. Villagers jump inside the keep. Gate has been finished just in time, and the villagers can escape.
Castle is now being targeted down. Just a side note here, puppypaw is grabbing Tithe Barns for a single relic. Interesting call.
I guess he really thinks this game's going long because it will take a bit of time to pay for itself.
Still, that's a large gold win that is now taken away from Wam.
Yeah, Wam doesn't do the rebuild, jumps out, grabs a little bit more gold, jumps back in, but the keep is falling 100%. Spears are close, but they're not going to get there in time. And villagers' lives are at stake, but at this point he's up 19 villagers, not the worst for him, starting to transition into a heavy spear composition as well.
Yeah, it's spear Streltsy, but maybe too much spear, too little Streltsy. Like, when you look at that army, it doesn't look inspiring. It doesn't really have that damage output potential. Sure, it's going to annihilate the cavalry, but you also need to have something that deals with the arbalestry at the back line.
And Wam, he knows.
Okay. Okay.
Do you think there's going to be one more?
No, the stone mine is blocking it.
Oh my gosh. He's like, look, and it's just one villager doing all this. He's like, hey, you're going to get some work in. Go on ahead.
That's what I call overtime hours.
Fight going down on the middle. JD is here, going to be able to soak in a ton of XP. Mangonel shots onto the arbs. First shot was a great one. Spear Mass is doing exactly what it needs to, and Puppy is fine with diving into it, it seems.
The high-quality army of puppypaw is now paying off here. Arbalestry at the back line, Jeanne D'Arc buffing the whole thing, and that's where the heal comes in. JD is also leveraging all that XP. Does fall in the very end, but the casualties are massive here for Wam.
Yeah, she also used her snipe ability to take down the Mangonel, so Arbs were able to continue to step up, didn't have to kite around, didn't have to dodge any shots. but Wam has the bigger queue. Remember that food income you were talking about. Puppies is now online, but does he have the production for it as well?
I mean, online is an understatement. He's up to 2K per minute, and you know, out of nowhere, actually, that might be a little deceiving because he just pulled the food from the guild hall. But if it's anywhere close to that, 1,500, 1,400, he's gonna be in a good spot because JD is about to get to level 4.
I feel like he like shift clicked this and the villager like walked all the way around the cliff.
No.
I wouldn't be too surprised.
No.
Oh no, he's back there. Okay, You never know how shift clicks works with walls. There's so many.
Oh, no.
Oh, see what I mean? Oh, okay, no. I was about to say there's.
Now here's the problem. You can have 6 layers of foundations, but when only 1 layer is complete, you're in trouble.
Yep, and that is exactly where puppypaw is trying to focus down on army walking into this north side where all of these walls are. Wam's trying to get the next set of walls down. There's no other villagers walking out. There's no extra walls going down on that southern side. And instead, I think he's just going to head to puppypaw's base.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, this takes so much time to loop around for puppypaw. And Wam is going to try marching into the enemy base here, but this is a slow-moving army. It could easily get surrounded from 2 sides.
There's a full chop through, so doesn't even have to worry about burning through the gate. Villagers, for some reason, decide to run through the gate, and chop through is spotted on out. Villagers starting to fall a little bit.
He's got 19 Streltsy. This fight is going to be so different from the previous one.
Yeah, Wam had to pull everything back. It's about to, Puppy had to pull everything back. Wam diving into more and more of the eco, but doesn't want to split these unit masses up, or else the crossbows are just going to get cleaned up by the horsemen.
This is going to be problematic for Puppy to deal with. His eco is being swarmed, and he doesn't have a very robust eco. He just now got this food eco running with the farms, but he's only at 93 villagers, just 1 relic. These villager casualties are ones that he cannot afford, especially on 1 TC.
Yeah, you can't forget that he has been on 1 TC, like you just said. He got all his TCs taken down, and Wam's on 3 behind this, so is boomed on up as much as he needs to, is feeling great about this, so that's probably where he just said, all right, I'll just take as many villagers out as I can, and I'll be able to remass very, very easily.
Now, a ball of 44 Arbaletria is no joke. Like, these guys are difficult to take out, especially when you just run past them. But
yeah, a little bit of some oversight there. At least you know, try to throw some away. They're spears, though, so they're not going to do much against Arbs anyways.
Tithe Barn's just now coming in for Wam. That's a late upgrade for a player that has 4 relics. But what I was going to say, and indeed, we had the same thought with the observers, too. The guild hall was shifted to gold, and that comes at a time where puppypaw does have a lot of gold, but he's struggling for food.
Yeah, you know, maybe he saw that in the future, gold is going to be a concern of his, even though he has a couple banged in his base. I don't know how much he's gathered from those. I know he was on them for a little bit, but 3K is enough for quite a few units, to say the least. And Wam, he's sending all of his pop into siege, it feels like.
The concern for puppypaw is that food eco is extremely underwhelming, and Arbaletria are food-heavy units.
Yeah, it does. At this point in the game, though, Consecration is on a ton of the ranges, a ton of the stables, TCs, everything of that sort. So saving quite a bit of food, but doesn't make up for the eco difference that we're seeing here. Look at the income per minute. Again, we're at like almost 5K. Actually, we are at over 5K for Wam, and over on puppypaw's side, we're sitting at like 3K.
Yeah, resource bank just up a tiny bit bigger over here for Wam, but that comes with 34 Streltsy being out there. Now, this is an interesting dynamic because I think with the Consecration and discount you're getting on the Arbaletria, I think they trade very cost-effectively against the Streltsy. I don't think this is a good setup for Wam here, army-wise.
And look, another raid trying to come down to the east side. This one, there is more than 1 layer.
Do you think when Puppy sees all these layers, he's just going to turn back?
I mean, once you go through the first, you're like, okay, the second, I'd maybe start doing it, but if I saw a 3rd layer, I would turn back. Yeah. You don't know how many are behind that, and us looking at the top, we know there's 5, 6 layers up at the top side.
And one thing I'm looking at is that I don't think those are ordinary horsemen. Yeah, those are Jeanne's riders. And this is what Cal was trying to show us there with the HP. Those bad boys have 300 HP out there. Now, do you want to charge with cavalry into a lot of musket fire? I do not know, but that's more than just normal horsemen.
They are a specialized unit, to say the least, but the Streltsy are one of the scariest units in the game, especially if you're not kiting back. That's one of the things you always need to make the Streltsy continue to move. If you just take the fight like this, the static deployment just becomes so much, and it is not going to go well for puppypaw if he takes this.
Yeah, he needs the Horseman here. If he has the Horseman here, I think he wins this fight, but without that, it's just too much. Bombards firing from the backline as well, Springles creeping up, and the Streltsy just absolutely nuking all these Arbaletria. Now here come the Cavalry, but they might just be a little too late to the party.
Yeah, the only, scary thing is just how much siege Wham has versus how many horse or Jeanne's riders that Puppy has, because those 30 Jeanne's riders can just dive right on top of all of that siege and make it very difficult, even with some spearsmen.
Exactly. You look at the army count, it's 51 versus 50, but a lot of that is in the form of Bombards and Springles. And you also have the Streltsy, but Streltsy are fragile. Like, once you jump them with a huge clump of cavalry and Arbaletria, they can die very quickly if you don't have a front line.
Yeah, and that is where we saw bonus damage against crossbows from those, but...
Jeanne is very low.
Oh, and it gets...
Oh, what a shot!
Does end up getting taken out right before he wants to take this engagement. Puppy has more than enough gold to buy her back, but never feels good doing so. He has to do it, though.
Yeah, you have to have it. It's almost level 4, Jeanne. Yeah, but Jeanne's riders now moving in here. It's a choke point setup, though, so even the few spearmen that you have here for Wham is going to make life problematic for Puppy.
Siege immediately gets taken out. Great siege micro by Wham. Still kind of kiting back. Jeanne's riders, though, there's so many of them. There's only 3 spears left. There's 38 Streltsy, but there's nothing to deal with those effectively, and this is going to, I think, be a cleanup potentially from... Oh, my gosh, never mind. All of Jeanne's riders just got cleaned up way faster than I thought.
Oh, but those are expensive Streltsy out here, and I feel like the juice is running out here for Wham. He rebuilt all these Streltsy in an instant, but he's going to lose the siege at the very least.
But look at the resource bank that he has compared to the bank Puppy has. He just needs more production out there, and he would have been able to remass this up way, way quicker than Puppy Paw, but that is where Puppy is gaining that advantage. He's having so many more units pop out. He's having the proximity to his base, all his units are so much closer.
Yeah, this is the problem that Puppy is facing. He held the first wave, but can he hold the second one? Jeanne is inches away from being tier 4. She got sniped the second before she could have gotten to tier 4. But that second wave of Streltsy with Spearman is just looking a lot more powerful. Now you don't have that much siege for Wham. They've been replaced by Spearman. But it means that Jeanne's riders will just start struggling against this composition.
And you called out that gold switch in the guild hall. And Puppy would really like if that was on food right now. He still has 2,400 gold. He's only got 500 food in the bank. Imagine having a quick influx of 2,700 food.
He could really use that because being able to get some horsemen out on the field would be helpful, because now, instead of Jeanne's riders, we're getting more and more horsemen out there, but when you only have 1,800 food per minute, spamming horsemen isn't sustainable.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good at all, and we all know that JD doesn't have the greatest food eco in the late game. When you're talking about, comparing it to civs like Abba or even Roos has some decent extra bonuses here. You can see the extra food income that they got. And the Streltsy are just shredding everything. Spear's still in a great location to make sure the siege is protected, and the Streltsy just get to do whatever they want. TC slowly getting taken down, infrastructure slowly getting taken down. Puppy doesn't have any relics in the bank anymore. He had that monastery drop.
That's gotta be it. That's gotta be it. Wham is so close to moving on to match point. He opened with 2 wins, then came Puppy with 2, but now he is inches away from moving on to match point, set point, tournament point, everything.
Goes up 4-2. Everyone wants this one to go to the distance except for Wham. Wham wants to end this one here right now. This next one might be a little less strategic in macro base and a little bit more aggressive in micro base.
If you show me this matchup, let's say 6 months ago, a year ago, I say it's a Delhi guaranteed win. Well, we've seen some really good performances here from Wham with, or not Wham actually, it was 1puppypaw with the French. But we've seen French being used to perfection. The map that we're playing is Cliffside. You spawn close to one another, and this could be an interesting map to play some cheesy, aggressive strategies on, like an early Spearman rush, for instance. But here we go. Match point now for Wam01 here in King of the Rockies. It is Wham playing as the Yellow French, facing off against 1puppypaw with the Red Delhi.
Everything is on the line. Puppy doesn't want to go home having to deal with all the smack talk from his brother on the plane ride. We know how it's going to go. So he wants to make sure to hold this one here, and Delhi was his choice of civilization for that.
I wonder if fatigue is starting to kick in for puppypaw, though, because Wam and puppypaw opened this day with a best of 5, long, grindy, hard-fought victory for Wam. But what that meant for him is that he got into the grand final from the winner's bracket. He was able to take a break, whereas puppypaw had to play a set against Give You Anxiety in the lower bracket.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure how much food puppypaw has gotten today, because while he was playing, Wam was trying sushi for the first time ever.
That is, I was gonna touch on that. Wam himself said he basically didn't eat anything. He actually brought sushi. Nine Racing Cat took him to a sushi place. This was his first time eating sushi. He was like okay with it, but I think he ate like one piece and he was done with lunch.
Yeah, I mean, hey, at least he tried it out. That's one of those meals that plenty of people hate, but it's one of my favorites out there.
Get out of here.
Oh yeah, I love sushi. It's one of my number ones. But that was also, I think, my favorite enjoyment of it was him trying to mess with the chopsticks. I never used them before.
It was so funny, you know. This is a community where you have a lot of people creating content, streaming, recording stuff. So the moment he tried that, you had like 6 people recording. It was like professional AoE 4 player trying chopsticks for the first time.
I mean, clearly he's got micro. He can use his hands well on the keyboard. It's just I don't know about chopsticks that well. But enough of that. Now we're seeing feudal ages drop. We're seeing the sheep income kind of getting dropped on off, and where you're seeing a villager move out from the French and grab up the deer pretty early. This might actually just be the I don't want to drop the... No, it's grabbing the deer early, so he is going full-fledged for that during the age up as well. Speaking of age up, look at what Puppy decided to go with.
I want more elephants. We've seen some elephants in this matchup earlier today. I want more.
Yeah, and you know what? We saw, you know, the Imperial Age elephants, some of the Tower elephants. We didn't get to see the War elephants, which they've had their own upgrades. They've had their own little bonuses. And if you are forcing a fight from Cav against those War elephants, they crush them.
Now, one thing to highlight here is that puppypaw's gold is very much to the front. So he's going to have to play defensive over here. He needs to make sure that those knights cannot raid him. I would love to see him getting a wall up in front of this gold mine, because he's going to face knights here. He cannot afford to lose these gold miners.
And honestly, I was just looking at the backside, too, from Puppy. He's got double deer, and gold, all in pretty close proximity to him on that northern side of the map, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. It's an easy spot for Wam to scout out and go, I'm going to attack this spot. I'm not going to let him get any of that valuable food income.
Okay.
We are back, I guess. Not sure if y'all heard any of what I was saying, but we were just, you know, spitting some more stuff about Wam eating sushi.
Well, I will be so upset if the stream didn't hear the sushi story.
I don't know how long ago it went robot voice, but we're back in the game now. We're in action. Feudal ages have begun, and we are getting ready for probably some chaos, knowing these two civilizations. Well, I say that, but Puppy might be going fast castle.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing here to the sushi. It's like
we're gonna keep going back.
Well, listen, it's an important PSA. Like tier 3 subscribers, they definitely heard the sushi story. Sound wasn't distorted to them. Now, if you weren't a tier 3 sub, well, you're just going to have to wait for the next opportunity to hear the sushi story.
There we go. Exactly that. And look at the scouting from Puppypaw. He was so close to the knight, I felt like the knight was doing damage to him.
He pulled away the villager from the gold here, and as much as your scholars are discounted with that gold, or in the gold department, you still need to have some level of gold income if you want to get to that 6, 7, 8 scholar number that you desire with this landmark.
Yeah, and you can see he's got 2 more in queue, but might not be as many as he wanted. So Barracks has been forced out. We will see at least a few spears on the way, and 3 immediately go into queue with a scholar inside as well.
And I feel like there's a lot of upside in this build here from Puppypaw, especially when it's done against a 1TC player. I don't think that just fast-grabbing ecotechs is enough to offset a differential of town centers. But when Wam is only playing 1TC, being able to pick up all these eco upgrades quickly and maybe even rush Castle Age, that might be a substantial advantage.
Yeah, he really would need to secure his gold if he is thinking about Castle Age at all. Might have had to kind of change pace from what the game plan was. And you can just see there's a little bit of kind of doesn't know exactly what he wants to do. Was dropping.
I think he knew it.
Dropping a blacksmith, canceled it, and drops the stables now.
It was probably a quick reaction seeing all these knights out there, maybe even seeing the amount of gold miners, and just realizing, listen, if my opponent has 7-8 on gold, he's going to be heavy on the knights, he's 1 TC, so I cannot afford to go blacksmith upgrades here. I need that stable for the Ghazi Raiders.
And one of the things I love is he just scouts out that deer. French, yeah, they're not that easily raidable all the time, but 1 or 2 Ghazis will force all of those vills back on home, and the knights, they're going to have to either circle back around to deal with it. Oh, and it's not even going to be the Ghazi. It's going to be a spearman raid, which is perfect. Wham doesn't have anything to deal with.
The Stealth Forest blocks the vision.
Oh,
he doesn't see it.
Crucial. This is going to be great. Does he pick up the knight right off the bat?
Oh, that's so bad for Wam. Idle time, a knight banked up, and this scout is the hero because he's the one just telling that info to the spears.
On the other side, Knight's trying to cancel out reinforcing units, but there's a lot of spears in the reinforcing units. Mill starting to be burnt. Puppypaw, it seems like he changed his focus, and it's only Knights from Wam, and he's got everything to deal with that right now.
And look at what he's doing. This is something that we've seen in the previous game. Professional scouts could be a thing, but even before that, gold being taken away from the French player, and Wam is so one-dimensional with the army. Not a single archer.
Yeah,
what are you going to do against... What are you going to do against that many spears and Ghazi Raiders with just knights?
Yeah, if this were JD with melee, you know, Wrath ability, that's one thing going on Knights, but he doesn't have that AoE ability. You cannot start taking these fights when that spear number climbs.
This is looking better and better for Puppypaw. And remember, Wam opened 2-0, Puppypaw won 2 straight. We could see the same thing again because an aggressive Puppy is working so well in this matchup. Wam is only on Knights, and he does not have the tools to defeat this army.
And I feel like every single time we see like this little camera hover from our observer, it's always we see Puppy scout, and it's just always in the most prime time.
He finds the gold
location.
He finds the gold.
Yeah, this scout is a god tier scout. Finds the split off gold, and he's like, okay, great. It causes a little bit of idle time. We'll need more to deal with that, but it's still only Knights from Wam, and Puppy is just massing spears and Ghazis, which work so well against this. Oh, great plays!
Oh, beautiful stagger. Beautiful stagger.
And the problem with the Knights that get lower health is the Ghazi actually can close the gap and kill them off if they're too far away from their own TC.
And they don't have chivalry. There is no chivalry here, and I think things will get a lot worse here for Puppypaw, because even if he gets archers out now, the Ghazi count is too far up. There's 8 Ghazi Raiders that Wam has yet to see.
Yeah, and again, this is what we're talking about. There's 2 of these lower health Knights. They might be picked up, but great micro by Wam to take up with the healthier Knights and probably try to stall enough time, and does exactly that. Really solid job by Wam, and finally getting double range drop. This just feels so late.
It feels like it, and we talked about this in the Abbasid French game. Horseman Spearman historically beats Knights and Archers, especially when the Archers are lagging behind so much.
Yeah, and again, this Ghazi forcing back another one of those Knights. Not taking too much damage, but just not getting any return fire. There have been 0 villager kills this game, and Puppy is still denying more and more resources all around Wam's base.
And it gets worse than that, because...
first vill kill.
That's the first vill kill of the game, but you feel like there should have been a lot more. Still, the fact that Puppypaw pivoted from the blacksmith to the stable is paying off big time here.
Yeah, and Wam, it's just, he feels like he's so far behind, and look at the scout number has climbed up. Food is going to be a big problem for Wam because all the deer are going to get stolen. We talked about in earlier games that deer, like the worst thing for French is having to make a farm transition. This is going to force a super early, look at it's about to happen right here now, I think.
It's
he's being a little bit safer with the first ones, but I'd love to see him take that forward pack that Wam was on early.
If he takes away all the deer from Wam, Wam is going to be in a terrible spot. The French need the food. We've seen that in the previous French game. You had to take all the deer, all the berries across the map, the boars even. If you don't have that, you cannot mass produce the Knights over here. Now raids are coming in.
Raid into the wood line. Not a ton of vill kills, actually no vill kills, but more idle time. One Ghazi does fall away, and Wam is trying to do some sort of damage with these knights. I think he sees the deer moving out and about, and he thought they're villagers. Because, you know, you could see him moving in the darkness, but in reality, they're just scouts. The scouts drop the deer, and they just run away.
They are faster than knights if they drop the deer, and at the same time, Puppy now knows that Wham's knights are on this side of the map. He can aggress the other side. Wall has been built by Puppy on the right side to block the walling from Wam. It looks like PuppyPaw is going to fall back over here, though. Playing this one a little bit more cautiously stops this aggression. I don't know if that's the good choice, though. I feel like he should have maybe continued trying to pressure that gold mine.
Well, you can't forget he's able to pick up 2 sacred sites.
That's true.
Now,
That's very
and
true.
I think the biggest priority for him is just the food denial. Take good trades, don't take damage at home, and slowly steal the deer.
I think he's yoinking the deer in the middle, maybe, because the scouts went south when they couldn't pick up the deer back at home.
Yeah, and I think I saw one maybe split off on the side where you were seeing the wall go down. Knights having to run on home, but they're slowly taking damage from these Gazis as they're running, and he is indeed starting to steal the deer from these bottom sides.
It is so good. Now, the Monk does get sniped out here, but still 2 sacred sites. Deer being ferried in, a lot of Knights banked up, and just look at this army. 11 Ghazi Raiders, a lot of spears out there as well. And I feel like the only thing I'm missing here for PuppyPaw is maybe a blacksmith for the upgrades now.
It's so weird. I feel like Wam and Puppy both, they're always so delayed on their blacksmiths. And obviously they're at the top of the scene, so maybe it's for good reason, but I feel like there's so many fights where they can sacrifice that little bit of gold.
No, he's got a blacksmith and he's not researching anything.
Well, we're just going to ignore that fact for a little bit of time as greater mistakes have been made. Looks like another looks like another Ghazi raid circling around the backside. Spear number starting to be thinned out, though, and this is a big problem. If those spears start falling, you usually want to have about double the knight number, and he's not quite there, but, you know, not too far off.
I don't like the pivot into archers. I think staying Ghazi and Spearman would have been a better choice here for PuppyPaw. The archers won't really do much here. He does damage a lot of the knights, though, and his main force is not back at home. He's actually all the way on the other side of the map raiding.
Yeah, he's still trying to secure up those
He's
deer.
killing vills.
Oh no, woodline has been chopped through. Villagers on the Delhi side have to run away, evacuate the woodline, need to wait for the army mass to get here and protect this up.
Big fight happening in the base of Wam here, behind the walls. And hey, look at this chaos. Scouts just being escorted by the Ghazi Raiders, but the archers are caught off guard.
And it's only archers versus Ghazis. The Ghazis clean this up so perfectly. And again, during all of this, Wam is losing out on this precious food income. He's at 14 food in the bank, only 300 food per minute.
And look at PuppyPaw, he's up to 17 archers now. Without blacksmith upgrades, something that he's finally grabbing, they're not amazing, but the food denial game is starting to pay off over here in a game that he must win.
And you know what? I was questioning the archer swap as well, but it makes so much sense with the food denial game. Wam can't make heavy food units. He can't make horsemen, can't make knights. Oh, the deer hunts right then and there. This is so prime time. Look at how many villagers are over there. He scouts all of this as well. Puppy is about to close this gap. This food is so crucial for Wam, and Puppy knows exactly where he needs to go.
That was a ridiculous scene. 7 villagers chasing this guy. Like, give it back to me.
That was our precious food. We need it.
And now Castle Age on the way for PuppyPaw, and this is not your normal Delhi Castle Age. He's going to get those decks so quick with 10 scholars out on the field.
Yeah, you say 10, now 11, and knowing PuppyPaw and Wam and the way they play Delhi, I wouldn't be surprised to see 4 scholars start moving out and just immediately snag 4 of the relics in the blink of an eye and just start bringing those on home.
Spearman count slowly building up here for PuppyPaw. Really, the only thing that is going bad here for PuppyPaw are the blacksmith upgrades.
And obviously, it doesn't matter too much for him. Oh, he just now clicks the blacksmith upgrades. He's gotten 1 in play already, so we didn't see that. But moving heavy onto the stone, he didn't go compound.
Yeah, he went House of Learning.
He hasn't clicked.
Okay, he's there. He's there. Chill. I like heavy stone though. You don't get a discount with the compound of the defender, but he's got momentum and he's close to his opponent. A castle in this middle ridge, right by the sacred site, is just so good for the Delhi.
Yeah, obviously he doesn't have our God vision, as we know that he could have probably just closed out that game by continuing the food denial for Wam. Wam is up to 1,200 food per minute, and Puppy's actually the one dropping due to that transition onto the stone.
He still has a lot of deer back at home, though, so it's a little deceiving, I feel.
Villagers, one does end up falling, but a ton of idle time has been caused, and Puppy's kind of, you know, just playing it safe and secure into his base. Another deer comes on home. I'm sure that is probably from one of those far side carcasses, knowing the way we have seen Puppy playing.
Puppy is hunting for that group of whatever units Wam has, probably mostly knights, that are circling his base, and that's part of the reason why he's not moving out just yet. But Wam needs to make something happen here. He does have a decent amount of food, but he's kind of stuck in Feudal Age. Still, Knights are formidable, even though they're only Feudal Age units.
And 15 villagers inside this town center.
That's a lot of vill kills.
Using a lot of units, though, for this. And look at what Puppy is following up with. He has 63 units on the field. He's starting to get Lancers of his own. I don't know what Wam's going to be able to do to hold this in Feudal Age.
Yeah, that's the concern here for Wam, indeed. He's got an army, but if he ever takes a fight, he's going to lose it, and I don't think he can rebuild it. He's back on track with food, but his cold bank is very underwhelming. Really, that group of knights just constantly running around the base of puppypaw is the only thing that's delaying Puppy from actually attacking the base of Wam here.
Yeah, and this is where it looks like he is finally deciding to press on forward, especially when you get a couple of those upgrades in play. Archers can somewhat hold their own.
They are veterans.
That's what I was saying. You can start seeing it now. They're two-shotting the knights.
But they don't have the blacksmith upgrades.
Oh, he definitely needs to kite back a few spears. A Lancer of his own will do wonders here for him.
Nice
but the surround behind from
It's
Wam,
not enough.
And it's a lot of low health knights too. Those are very easily cleaned up, and Puppypaw might just be able to clean this mass and keep Wam stuck in Feudal.
Cost efficiency is also a thing. These are veteran spearmen, veteran archers, and so many expensive knights are falling. Wam, I don't know if he's looking for Castle Age here. It looks like he's piling up food and gold, but if he goes Castle now, he's gonna die.
And exactly that. Puppypaw knows it. He's continuing to press forward, pushing forward with his infantry mass, and 13 scholars, 4 more in queue. Is that compounded the defender now?
No, it's not.
It looks like it.
It's a house of learning. We've seen it being built.
Yeah, I know. It just looks like it. I don't know what the upgrade
He's
is.
grabbing the elephant tech, okay? That's all that matters.
Well, that says Village Fortress. Oh, Village Fortress can still be out of the... I forgot.
He's using the mosque right next to it to buff it, though, so he's going to get it quick.
Very, very quickly, especially with the amount of scholars you're talking about. And this is crazy. He was so far behind on the blacksmith upgrades, and now he's actually going to be ahead with forgetting to click him for quite some time just because of how quick they come through with that many scholars.
He's still being haunted by all these knights raiding his base. I don't know, maybe he needs to leave a couple of spearmen behind or something. But these raids are really good for Wam, and they have taken a toll on Puppypaw's economy. Puppy is now down by 12 workers.
Yeah, they've definitely been adding up. Whoa, coming into play. He's going for the dive. Oh my God, no. No
way!
Oh my God, it's over. Oh my God. Well, we are going to another game, no doubt, as the Wololo excitement is there.
Oh, talk about that. And this was one of the best games from Puppypaw we've seen in this series. He really seems like he's back on track. Wam still with the match point, but what a game from Puppy. And, we talked about this. 2 in a row for Wam. Then comes Puppy. 2 in a row again for Wam. Can Puppy take us to game number 9?
We got one map ahead of us. At least before that, could potentially get to that game number 9. I know I've been enjoying this. I know the viewers have been enjoying this. So if you're out there, you got a little extra, will to support, got some donations to come on through. Remember, community-funded event. This goes a long way, and we couldn't have gotten this set up, couldn't have gotten this done without everyone out there.
Indeed, and talk about all the people that helped make this happen. I think this is a good time to give a big shout out to the production crew because they have been really standing up for us both at the venue, the technical support stuff, as well as all the guys doing the observing, the camera setup, the lighting. There's an insane amount of work that goes into this, and I think they are the true heroes of this event because without them, we would be sitting at this desk. Totally dark, no lights, no microphones, no nothing. no draft overlays. They are the true heroes that are making this event happen.
Yeah, and I mean, when stuff looks clean, when you're able to actually follow the game and understand what you're seeing rather than kind of just look into darkness, it makes things so much simpler. Makes it so much nicer to be able to track what's going on and watch and support. And so definitely huge shout out to them. Obviously, people are pretty familiar with Observer Cal, but might not be familiar with some of the other, Observer. We have Caleb Calamari, who was in the Rising Empire scene a good bit ago until work life became a thing, and then Def Jackal was here earlier helping out with the observing as well. So huge shout out to all three of those, and I could not do the job they've been doing. They have been on those computers all day while we only have to cast a few series each day.
You know what else was on a computer the whole day? It is 1puppypaw. He's been playing since the morning. He's down 1 point because his brother is still at match point. It's Wam01 with the color yellow as the English, and 1puppypaw with the Japanese in red.
Yeah, and looking at these starting spots, it looks like we're going to see one person go for that early pond, whereas the other side, he scouts it but doesn't want to move out himself, and that's because you cannot try to take the pond against the English villagers. They got short bows. They're just going to walk over and shoot you to death and then drop it themselves.
Now, knowing this, I would not be against Wham pulling a dozen villagers. Well, maybe not a dozen right now, but a couple of more villagers for a shorefish. It's a great source of food. And as I'm saying that, I think he's just moving to the gold. No, it's shorefish only. Or, beg your pardon. It's just trees. He just wants the fishing boats. But nevertheless, under circumstances like this, when you're guaranteed that little pond, pulling all your food villagers to shorefish can give you a very nice extra influx of food.
Yeah, walking out there with that many villagers does cause you some idle time, but you start catching up with the faster gathering rate there. Usually you see English come out with 2 or 3, but knowing you're playing against English, you might not take that risk, and that's where Wham just said, all right, 1 is more than enough here. Meanwhile, at home, like you said, he's on the wood. The question is, how many fishing boats does he go? A lot of times, if you get too greedy, your opponent ages up a little too quick and punishes you right back, drops a dock on the middle pond. So I would say like 2 or 3 is kind of the number that I would stop at and then try to age up quicker before getting back onto the pond heavier. And looking there, you see one that has already popped out and the other one in queue. Meanwhile, on the side of Japanese, 1puppypaw is only a drop-off or 2 away from starting that age up. And the big question is, what age up will it be?
This is, I think, potentially the biggest make or break of this game. And it's going to be the Coca Township. I think the more predictable landmark, but it's also the one that needs to make things happen. We talked about this with Cow in the Four Lakes game. If the Coca Township doesn't get you an advantage in the next few minutes, it's a near useless landmark.
Yeah, and what this will allow him to do, we can already see Wham isn't too far behind with his feudal age, obviously having a little bit of extra eco with the fishing, and the Coca Township will allow a shinobi to come out, demolish the dock and not allow it to have anything, well, not fully take it down, but not allow it to produce anything out, and 1puppypaw at the same time could be dropping a dock of his own while that happens.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? At this point, what 1puppypaw is playing around is a faster feudal age and just conceding the pond. But the idea is that when he reaches feudal, he's going to get the shinobi out, he's going to be able to push away the enemy villager, and he's going to get the dock up. Plus, at the same time, if he can just shut down the dock with the shinobi, he's going to secure the water.
Yep. We can see that the dock has 2 villagers, so Puppy needed to get that down quickly. And Shinobi, the Abbey of the King is being rushed with 6 villagers. Remember, the King has gotten a few nerfs now. It takes about 45 seconds for it to end up coming out. So while it does deal decently with Shinobi, it takes time.
Shinobi also get bonus damage against melee units. So it's not like you can just headlessly run into a group of Shinobi and start bashing them in the face. You gotta respect those guys, and you're gonna need to micro this King nonstop, making sure that you pull him away when he's weak.
Yeah, constantly hit and run. Obviously, the King heals up, as do the Shinobi, but King maybe a little bit more effectively.
Well.
The new age has begun, and the Shinobi are going to be coming here in the near future. The dock for Puppy, I'm wondering if he is planning to do some fishing or if he's going to try to save up for a military ship first.
it's tricky. I think if you are the Japanese, you're not rushing. You're not rushing ships, and I think he wants to go for emplacements. He's on stone, and the pond is so small that if you have emplacements, you are pretty much all set.
I believe he's getting stone from the gold drop-off, and so it's a very, very slow trickle. So this is going to take another like 2 or 3 minutes for him in placements, and instead it is going to be the aeroship. I love this because the aeroship immediately denies the fishing. They have to jump inside the dock. That's 3 less economy that is now working.
And the Shinobi.
There you go. The Shinobi is able to counteract the military ship from Wam, and if he gets a second Shinobi too, this makes it to where the dock almost can't do anything at all.
Exactly. This king needs to save the dock. Because if he's not killing this Shinobi or the one that's coming up, then the dock is going to be shut down and that's it. And part of the reason why this galley is good for puppypaw is because this will help fight off that king for the Shinobi.
Yep, and the second Shinobi has arrived, not yet needing to use its ability, but there, I believe.
It's soon.
It's going to be ended up being soon, and the king has arrived. Shinobi turn, takes a charge, hurts a little bit, but the galley is going to help on out, and there it is, continuing the delay, and that is officially burning as well because of the health too, so it's not just the Shinobi ability.
And this is a big problem here for Wam, because he needed this king to repose the Shinobi so he could pull a villager to repair. Now he cannot. He's not going to get a combat ship out. He loses the fishing boats, and the Shinobi are still out there. He only has 1 king. If he wants to be aggressive with the king, which seems to be the case, the Shinobi can start harassing his gold mine, which spawned to the front.
Yep, and there we see it. The dock has been denied, and this is where we're going to blink, and Puppy's going to have like 8 to 10 fishing boats in this pond in no time just because of how cheap they are. But the king is trying to find another spot to do some damage, but flying a little too close to the sun, king will fall.
Oh, that is just so bad for Wam. And I think Wam wants to castle here. He just wanted to harass with the king, and I think he wants to go to castle, but this might be
his
too
own
late.
outpost is trying to go up. Shoot, use the short bows. There it is. Oh.
You can set it on fire, though, and that in itself does so much damage.
Look at how much damage the villagers do to the Shinobi, though. Remember, these are those range. Oh!
Nice TP.
Not extra TP in. 1 villager falls.
And the tower isn't going up. You have more Shinobi coming across. puppypaw. This is looking better and better for him, and we might be going into game number 9.
And this is such a crucial timing because you said it, he's trying to go up the castle. He's trying to get, you know, something going for himself, and that was about a minute's worth of delay.
He needs to repair that tower. Okay, it is fine.
Outpost is fine. The longbow has come out, and this is what easily deters the Shinobi unless they jump on top of just the 1 or 2 single longbows that are there.
You know, concern here for Wam is, or puppypaw I should say, is that now Wam is going to go castle. He's going to have that second town center because I think he's going to age with King's Palace. And puppypaw is nowhere close to cost age here. Side note though, longbows will have to take the long path around because they can't just get close to the pond.
Yeah, and it looks like Puppy is going to go ahead and drop a backside range, maybe try to clear up those few longbows, allow the Shinobi to start roaming the map again. But by the time that's coming on out, Wham's going to be going up.
He will. He's using the hunt at the back of his base, and that's fueling that food economy. And once he gets the fuel edge, we talked about this, if you don't win this game as the Japanese by minute 15 or so, you are going to be in trouble.
Oh, and I think he might even cancel the range and gone with the stables as we're seeing horsemen being queued up now rather... oh, nope, it's the archers as well. So he's kind of sticking in feudal, it seems.
Risky call, but could work. We've seen timing attacks annihilate players before. If this is well timed for puppypaw, he could cut off the gold from his opponent. Oh, the beautiful DP.
Horseman at the perfect timing as well. Longbows were going to try to take out a Shinobi before dying, but not enough damage there. And Puppy, 10 units versus the 1 longbow on the other side, and you did call it. It's King's Palace, which means there's no white tower to defend.
There's no white tower, and the King's Palace is at the back as well. The gold mine is undefended. No fallback, no good fallback options in terms of gold. All of them are on the right. And the way that you annihilate a player that's fast castling against you is by taking away that gold. Wam is building a stable. If he doesn't have the gold for knights, he's going to be in a terrible spot.
And I'm pretty sure with the health that tower's at, just with the few Shinobi, they'd be able to take that down really, really quickly, especially with horsemen too.
It's low HP, so 1 Shinobi torch is going to essentially take it out. And you can stun the stable with the Shinobi, allowing you to just put some more pressure on before the first knight arrives.
But it looks like he decided to turn back around and head home instead. Does not want to lose some of those units. does not want to be... Oh, as I say that, turns right back around yet again.
Maybe a little too late. He was hesitant for a couple of seconds. I think he won't be able to prevent the Knight.
If he uses the... Oh, yes, he can. Yes, he can. Oh, this is a game of seconds over here. He is able to delay that Knight just long enough, and that gives him more and more timing. You can see the resources in the bank now. He's walled himself in, and Puppy's going to be going castle soon.
Yeah, he needs to time this perfectly. If he's just 1 second too late, the Knight is going to pop out. I think he's not going to play around here. But he definitely bought himself time. Oh, as I'm saying that, he's going to do it again. He's going to do it again. That Knight should not come out. Oh, there it is.
And the Knight comes out. This now allows Wam to clean up the Shinobi mass. Oh my gosh, a dash is utilized. Longbow gets cleared. And only a few Shinobi left now, but Puppy has bought enough time for himself. The floating gate is being dropped, and he will be matching the tech advantage that Wam has right now.
And look at those Shinobi against the Knights. Like, these guys are no pushover. They do a lot of damage against melee units. And sure enough, you can heal this back up, but the stable was still stunned. So the second Knight is just now coming in for Wam. And as you touched on this is King's Palace, no White Tower. So when that floating gate finishes with the Yorishiro, 1puppypaw will be able to outmuscle his opponent in terms of Knight production or Mounted Samurai production.
Yeah, and if you're talking about Knights versus Mounted Samurai, the Mounted Samurai are able to train over all of those Knights. There's just such a good ability, especially when players know how to use their deflective armor, effectively. They'll draw back, go back in, tank up Knight charges with deflective armor. It is just so good. And
I love the walls from 1puppypaw. It's not just the fact that these Shinobi bought him time to get to castle. It's also the fact that he was able to get the walls up. So it's going to be difficult for Wam to punish this castle age now. And at the same time, TC upgrade is in, so now you can have an extra bannerman out. Combine those Mounted Samurai with the Uma bannerman, and it gets very painful for these Knights.
Yeah, we are getting to the point, though, where Wam has evened up the economic count due to that King's Palace, so matching kind of the fishing boat number. And as it continues to go, he should continue to climb in the Vil count number unless Puppy drops a second TC of his own.
Uma Bannerman, maybe a little too trigger happy here.
Deflective armor at least tanks up a little bit of damage and hides behind the walls. And there's the Mounted Samurai with the two of them. I'm wondering, I think they might just take the straight. Yeah. And obviously Wam thinks that he cannot take the straight. He runs on home.
And this is just the first Mounted Samurai. The build-up is going to be so rapid. Now, pivot to crossbows is being made here by Wam. And a Bannerman is being beaten up very badly. Nice pull away here from 1puppypaw in the very last second.
Yeah, no focus on the Mounted Samurai at all. It was all about focusing on the Bannerman. But speaking of focus, there's another Knight starting to get focused down from those Shinobi. Great charge from Wam. Takes out the Scout.
Oh, you think so? 1puppypaw was trying to TP to intercept that one retreating Knight. Wam is active on the map, though, for the relics. This was spotted by 1puppypaw. He sees this monk. He knows his opponent is already collecting relics.
Yeah, and you can see he is starting to collect some relics of his own. Knight numbers starting to get pretty scary for Wam, though. Knights have gone up to 7. Meanwhile, Puppy not quite at 7 yet. He has his 6th Mounted Samurai in queue.
But he's got Onamusha coming in as well. So 1puppypaw has a fully mobile army that counters this group of Knights.
The Bannerman trying to dive the backside.
Nice
First
snipe.
it was a crossbow, then he was going to go for the monk, but instead the main fight is going in. Onamusha on the backside. Mounted Samurais being the tank, but 1puppypaw has to fall back away as there are some crossbows here from Wam.
And at least 2 of these Knights for Wam barely survived, but he was able to pull them away. 1puppypaw wasn't able to finish off a lot of these damaged units, and at the same time, he was losing a lot of units himself. You look at the destroyed value, it's 2-1.
Yeah, and it's really starting to kind of build that eco lead that Wam has. He's up 5 villagers now. He's, again, still has the Knight number on his side and has those crossbows on the back. English getting more and more into that comfort zone, getting closer and closer to that late game that you were talking about. Not there yet, but wanting to.
Onamusha are now on the field, though, and blast upgrades coming in as well for 1puppypaw. Remember, Onamusha were single trained so far. Now he's got a Yorishiro buffing that as well. So the build-up is a lot more rapid here for puppypaw. Now it's even Stevens when you look at the Knight numbers. That wasn't the case a few minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. And Puppy is starting to kind of feel like he can move out with this timing. And Wam is still just trying to fight over this relic, and fight over the relic is exactly what they're doing. Onimusha arrived. The Knights need to run away, but the problem this time is that there's a lot more Onimusha here that should be able to close the gap and kill these much quicker.
Yeah, a lot of Knights are being focused down here, but at least Wam is able to get away with the relic, or so he does think. I don't know about this, though.
Another Wallow. He wants revenge. He wants... Oh!
And many of these mounted samurai are heavily damaged. Puppypaw was willing to sacrifice them to hunt down the monks, to hunt down some of these crossbows. And at the end of the day, now the Onimusha are starting to reign supreme on these Knights.
Yeah, and not only that, it was a very, very effective trade. Knight number from Wam is down at 4. Mounted Samurai numbers above that, and the Onimushas are still sitting healthy. Mobile and relics have not been brought back by Wam. All of this has been fight over relics.
Yeah, Eco-Lead is still building up, though, for Wam here, but...
as you say that, Puppy's dropping his second TC.
As he should.
So should be able to kind of stop the bleeding on the Eco lead that Wam has.
That's a really good second TC there. One thing to note here is that Wam is kind of confined into his base, and with him making a pivot away from the Knights, he's going to start losing out on mobility. Onimusha and Mounted Samurai is one large army that's insanely quick. It could be troublesome to track them with just crossbows.
Yeah, fortunately, though, for Wam, he's the English, gets to be very, very consolidated in his base, but will need to move out to those secondary golds that we were talking about earlier, which are outside the walls. And he, you know, I don't know how much is left on that initial gold, but it's it's out.
It's out. It is out.
He has been able to secure up that second relic finally. One left on the map right in front of his base.
Yeah, I think that one might be yoinked away from by Puppy, though.
He should be having a monk go that way soon. You can see where his army is posturing. He's just kind of waiting until that point. Outpost being dropped by Wam, making sure he at least has some vision before that gold mine potentially gets raided. And the fortunate spot for that is if he sees anything, the villagers just run right through the gate and won't have any worry about damage to him.
Yeah, I like this a lot for Wam. And he is doing the classic English thing. He's making a farm transition, a big farm transition that is. And now he's setting up for this late game. He's going to play defensive in the next few minutes because he knows that if this game goes long, beyond 20 minutes, he's going to start building up a massive advantage.
Yeah, and the crossbow numbers this time fighting with network of castles. And I think they're at the point where they're one-shotting the Mounted Samurai, and that is where you start getting real scared. You feel like at that point you have to take a fight or not. There's none of this like posturing, moving back and forth, because every time you do that, you start bleeding units that are very expensive.
Exactly. Now, one thing that we've seen from puppypaw in one of the previous games, the French vs. Abbasid one, is just leveraging the map control advantage that he's given. And I think he needs to do the same thing here. I would love to see him trying to start the Sacred Site countdown to put his opponent on a timer. It's going to be difficult to hold all three Sacred Sites. But basically, he needs to punish his opponent for playing so defensive and not moving out on the map.
Yep, and he has secured the first one, but Wam immediately decapping that, and at the same time will attempt to cap that after it. But we know how mobile Puppy's army is. I'm sure he's just going to send an Onimusha or a Mounted Samurai over there and deal with that monk like he is nothing.
26 crossbows for Wam. He's a full crossbow army here. A little dangerous. If puppypaw went horseman, this could be a lot more problematic. But for the time being, it looks like Wam just wants to go to Imperial. He's piling up resources very quickly.
Yeah, he's about halfway there as far as the resource bank goes. Puppy looks like he's trying to flank around where this Night Mass is and hope to get some good trades, hope to get some good picks. But speaking of potential good picks, Springle Tower deters the Knights away, and Wam circles back to the Sacred Site.
Onimusha have gotten their upgrade now, however. This army is formidable for puppypaw, but I don't think it's enough to essentially take a 1v1 against all these crossbows.
And he is exactly doing that. The Knights are diving the berries that we saw earlier, but the Onimusha and the Mounted Samurai are closing the gap on the crossbows, and it seems like the crossbows are starting to fall very, very fast. Great job by puppypaw getting his Mounted Samurai in the middle of all those units, making them hard to kite back. Some split off, getting on top of villagers, but now crossbows are behind the wall, and Puppy will be losing more and more units.
And he is denied of gold here. That's the key recipe or key piece of utility, ingredient, whatever you want to call it. Villagers going back to the gold over here. So many have fallen as well. The villager count is now neck and neck. But most importantly, Wam, maybe he wanted to go into Imperial, but he does not have the gold for it.
Yeah, and Puppy, he did lose a lot of units there, but that crossbow mass, what were you saying before? It was up at 25, 30, maybe 35, 40. It's at 10 now. He was able to one-shot Mounted Samurai, but no longer, so very hard to deal with this mass from Puppy. He turned this game right upside down all of a sudden.
And there is a second wave. A lot of villagers are heavily damaged over here, and if you have to pull the vills, that's never a good thing to have.
Yeah, villagers jumping inside the outpost, knights diving on top of the Mounted Samurai, on top of the Onimusha, more farms being dropped by Wam. Thinks he needs more food, but no locations inside the walls to do that.
There is one resource that Wam is struggling with very badly. It's space. He's confined into his base. He needs to move his farms outside of his base now because there is just no more space left within. At the same time, you can see that 1puppypaw, as he should, he's leveraging that map control. He is taking all the berries, the hunt, the gold. And as long as he applies pressure on this gold mine, he can deny that Imperial from Wam, but I don't know how long that's going to last. Because if Wam clicks up to Imperial, it must be a Berkshire Palace here.
Yep. And we have seen the bill count get to dead even now, except Puppy has a few more of the passive resources on his side, at least for now until Enclosures comes into play. Knights circling, might be headed right to where those deer are. You know, it's so easy.
That's a problem. That's a problem for Puppy. He gets the early warning, though, from the monk.
He does indeed, but hasn't pulled those
Hasn't pulled the vills.
It's so easy to spot deer when they get spotted out and start
And I love the scout. I love the scout from Wam. This is the unit that gives him the intel, allows the knights to truly find this pocket eco.
And there were so many more villagers here than I realized. It's double-digit villagers. They're all having to run towards the middle, but fortunately, he's got units here not too far away. So if Wam continues to chase and close the gap, those units will fall, and he knows better. He just runs deeper into Puppy's base instead.
The second layer has some walls protecting it, but Wam is getting dangerously close to that Imperial, and his upgrades are also looking a lot sharper here. Some of them are not showing up perfectly for the Japanese on the UI, but still, those upgrades are looking very healthy for him. Tier 1 mining upgrade as well helps a lot to get the gold you need for Imperial.
Ooh, and not a move. The scout gets taken out. A lot of damage on some of those knights, and more Mounted Samurai circling back around. Wam spots out the secondary TC.
This could be terrible for Wam. If he starts building that Berkshire just when Puppy is moving in, he could just get landmark. Well, not landmark snipe, but you get my point. You're building the landmark with all your vills, and if the dive happens now, it could be game.
And the dive, I don't think can happen just with 34 crossbows.
Puppy sees it. He sees it because of the towers, and he's going for it.
Oh, Mangonel arrives. There's so many crossbows, and this is just such a hard fight to take with the Springfield outpost, with network of castles, everything of that sort. And I think Wam knows that, so Berkshire will go up. And now Puppy's diving. It's way too late.
It is. It certainly is.
No, fall back. Oh, villagers jump inside the Berkshire and watch all these units just get shredded to nothing. Actually, speaking of, Wam's crossbow mass, he was at 35, he's down to 17, really needs to
Villagers in the corner.
Villagers are in the corner falling, and 1puppypaw trying to do a ton of return damage, splits off the Onimusha, just needs to run away from the Berkshire before all his units fall.
Some villager damage is done, but not enough, I feel, here for 1puppypaw. He picked a couple of villagers, but it's still even Stevens. Wam does not have a lot of gold, though, and that prevents him from getting elite upgrades. This is just so much of a time needed here for 1puppypaw. He needs to get to Imperial, and he can try to buy some time by denying his gold.
Wam can almost go Imperial again with the resources he has in the bank. He needs to queue some stuff up. He has nothing in queue right now.
Yeah, he's making a switch to hand cannoneers.
He was waiting. He's doing the hand cannoneer swap. If it works once, it will work again. Goes right back to that deer location. There's still 10 villagers there, but they have mined out all the deer, gathered up all the deer, whatever you want to call it. And it looks like Puppy has finally made a farm transition inside of his walls as well.
Wam is on his last gold mine. But at the same time, he has an age advantage and a lot of resources in the bank. Looks like Puppy wants to imp as well, however, and remember, we've seen this in previous games. Resource denial can win you games. Here in this game, their name of the game is not just gold, but also wood. Because both of those resources will be slowly running out from within the base of WAM.
Exactly. You can see, though, Mangonel starting to clear up some of these outposts, clear up some of the vision. Puppy's still trying to do damage, but he's running into Berkshire and just throwing units for now. Still Onamushi here. And that's right as he's still, you know, like we said, trying to gather the resources to go up to Imp. He is teched behind and allowing English to get not only to late game, but to late game.
And it's the Tanegashima Gunsmith out there, so no Castle of the Crow for this game for Puppy. He still has the Sacred Side victory condition ticking, by the way. Now, it's a very faint Sacred Side control, I would say, but at the same time, he's been getting that passive resource income from there as well.
Oh, looks like Wham needs to secure some more gold for himself, as well as deny this from Puppy. Japanese, they love their gold. Speaking of, Puppy's got 3,000 of it even after it. Are
we going to see an Atakabune in that middle pond?
Oh, that's a good question.
And the Onamushi are still quick. So far, Wham was able to protect his eco because he was behind walls. But now that he needs to move out for gold, he could suddenly get raided by all the Onamushi and Mounted Samurai.
Yeah, and this is where hand cannoneer swap for Puppy Paw as well, but the problem is that's the same comp from Wham, and he's just going to be a step behind. Realizes that he has made the chop through. Puppy Paw arrives at the perfect timing. Hasn't yet denied the wall in, though.
Oh, those walls are coming in just in time. Hand cannoneers will make the switch, but now these Mounted Samurai are elite as well.
Hand cannoneers, though, will deter this mass from getting into the base, and English slowly breaking out of their shell.
They are, and I think the clock is ticking very badly for Puppy Paw now. Wham has a very solid food eco, has passive gold from the farms as well, and Puppy Paw's food eco is just not there yet. He can get a really good food eco himself with the Japanese farms, but he's just not there yet.
Yeah, he was on all the pocket resources for so long. That's, you know, we saw Wham ahead in the villager count. We saw Wham having kind of more of this, even though he was in his base, more of this control because of that King's Palace over the course of time. And then Puppy dropped it late. Now he's been catching up, but it's taken a while.
Puppy Paw can go for 7 Bannermen overall. That could be a massive buff to your army. But production is just not really there right now. He's trying to make a switch into hand cannoneers himself.
Trebs starting to siege down whatever is in their path. Looks like Market is the first choice after the dock was denied.
And this is getting dicey for Puppy here. This gold mine is very much needed for him. He's got to back up all the way to the north. But you don't want to miss out on both of the large gold veins.
Yeah, he has 2K in the bank still reserved. Trying to just gather as much as he can for the time being. But look at the army number differences. Wham's up at 52 with siege and potentially with network of castles if he continues to drop forward outposts and continues to expand on out. But we saw villagers starting to fall on that gold vein of Puppy Paws. It looks like based on the minimap that they're still there. They just started running on away and lost a ton more villagers.
This is the exact setup that the English love to play. A closed-up map, narrow funnel points. That is English territory. But guess what? You have hand cannoneers coming in from Puppy, and he's got a lot of bannermen buffing them too.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, though, there are a ton of hand cannoneers for Wham, and I think Wham still has the numbers here, but will the bannermen prove to be enough of a difference here during this fight?
This is just so close here. Puppy Boss down to just 6 hand cannoneers. Could this be it? Both of these players said that they think they would win 5-3, and that's gonna be the case. Wam01, the champion of King of the Rockies, defeating Puppy Paw 5-3.
Woo! Big congrats to Wam01. You can see the relief in his face. You can see it now. He has taken the crown here.
What a tournament, what a series here. These guys have played no less than 13 games against each other today. They've been here since the morning, and have treated us with a spectacular day of Age of Empires.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the fatigue got to Puppy Paw. I'm wondering if that had any of effect, but one thing we do know is both of these players are in incredible form. They have been playing so clean. It doesn't always look clean because they're playing each other, but if you look at other series, other previous weeks, I mean, they have just continually elevated their gameplay.
It was a spectacular day, and really a 5-3 scoreline, but it's also the quality of the games that we've seen. A lot of back and forth, and I think the coolest thing in this whole tournament and in this grand finals was all those highlight moments, the big Wololos, the big Mangonel shot. We've been screaming our hearts out here, man.
When that Wololo happened, I like almost threw the desk over. I was so excited. I was like,
I'm glad you didn't.
I would have messed up our whole entire setup over here, but woo, that was what an exciting series. And even the 3-0s, even the other series, the gameplay that was happening, I mean, you had GUA playing. He's an aggressive player. At any point in time, you know, if Puppy isn't paying attention, raids come in. It's always excitement. What a fun final day, and we couldn't have done it without the support from the community, all the observers, all the admins, the staff, everything in play. This has been such a sick event.
Well, Wam01, if I recall correctly, in your interview, you said that you could beat puppypaw 5-3. You've done just that. How do you feel?
I mean, I feel amazing, really. I mean, we always have good games, I think, and I hope they're great to watch, you know, so I'm feeling good.
Well, it was a long day for you, and I wanted to ask you about this. You won the first best of 5 between the two of you. You got to have a break. Was it helpful for you? Did you feel like that rest was much needed, or would you have preferred going into this grand finals immediately like puppypaw did?
I think most other days I would prefer just like playing like back-to-back series, but this day I definitely needed the break. I mean, I'm sure puppypaw did as well. I'm sure we're both exhausted. Like, I am exhausted. Like,
well, I gotta ask you about some of these games, though, because we had some highlight moments. You started out very hot, 2-0, and then there were some very interesting games right afterwards. Particularly the one that caught my eye was the French versus Abbasid game. Normally, you see the Abbasids dominating that matchup, but things just didn't work that way. What were your thoughts on that game in hindsight?
honestly, I thought, you know, going into that game, Abbasid definitely has the advantage, and that was a game that, you know, you kind of, as a player, you're like, okay, I need to win this game, that game, I can lose this game. That was a game that was like, okay, I should win. However, puppypaw played very well, honestly. Like, he was kind of everywhere, and I couldn't get down a good TC location. I couldn't really get a good amount of time on gold there, so I didn't even have my upgrades by the time we had that big fight at the berries there. So it was, I'd say it just played quite well, to be honest.
There were a lot of like big moments in this entire series. Some big volos happening, not something you see every day. Some big mangonel shots, some sneaky moments, shinobi shenanigans with the TP. Did you have like a favorite highlight moment in this entire grand finals?
Oh my god, there's a lot of moments. I can't even think of all of them, but I mean the Delhi French game was fun, but honestly I just kind of went into that knowing that like I'm dead anyway. Like so maybe if I can kill this skull and have some like miracle where I kill all of his villagers afterwards. But yeah, I kind of knew it was gonna fail. It failed, and then I'm just like GG. Like,
yeah, we've seen a lot of builds from both of you that were quite unutilized before the event began. And we talked about this in the pre-event interviews as well. Patch dropped a couple of days, well, not a couple of days, a single day before the event. In hindsight, how do you feel like the patch affected the tournament and your performance?
I think the patch definitely made the tournament a lot more exciting. Just seeing the new build, seeing the new strats. I mean, the Delhi games in particular. I mean, that they were all exciting in my opinion. And the Roost game was a little bit kind of like sluggish, but also you have like Tempe is a very turtle map because it's like ulti with the sides there, and I don't know, maybe some people are memeing, but I built like 6 walls on the sides there. Just
well, we've seen that.
Just because why not, you know? Like, that's how you play. Like, it.
I gotta ask you this, now that you're the champion, the first champion of King of the Rockies. You know, you had that break between the sets, and I heard you tried a food that you haven't tried before.
Yeah, I tried sushi, which I've never tried before, but people were making fun of me, like, because I was trying to eat it with my hands and stuff, and it's like, okay, well, you know, it wasn't so bad. I ate it, like.
Yeah, you gotta learn those chopsticks, man, because one thing is sure, your hands are pretty good at this gaming thing already, so chopsticks should be no problem.
Well, I learned the important stuff, and you know, sushi, chopsticks, maybe another time, you know.
Well, it has been an absolutely spectacular weekend here. It's been very fun seeing all of the players together, just theory crafting, discussing sets behind the scenes. Do you have any closing thoughts about the event?
I mean, obviously, I just want to thank everybody who came, and you know, just coming out to the event makes it so much more fun. Obviously, the production for putting, you know, the effort and like making this event happen just requires so much effort from so many people, and you know, you just can't be more thankful.
Indeed, you know, it's been a spectacular event. You know, I gotta ask you this: what's next for you now that you are champion, King of the Rockies? What's next?
Well, in the long term, I don't know. We'll have to see if any more tournaments are announced. But in the short term, I'm planning to, you know, win King of Dry Arabia on the 30th, and then hopefully go to Red Bull with Puppy So I have an exciting month or two.
It's gonna be exciting. That is for sure. I'm sure you guys will have a lot of banter as you are flying back from Denver. Thank you so much, Wam, for joining me. It has been a spectacular grand finals. Congratulations once again. And now you shall have your well-deserved rest.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and obviously all the viewers, but thank you.